Chapter 648 Dijiang. Chapter 648 Dijiang continue. Hanju directly made his choice. The Nether race was a very powerful and important force to him. He had to support them. He was still looking forward to nurturing 10,000 pseudo-sages to wreak havoc in the chaos. Hanju entered the illusion. Opening his eyes, Hanju came to a dark hall. On both sides stood huge stone pillars carved with mysterious ferocious beasts. The surface of the stone pillars looked transparent, and there was magma surging in them, causing the atmosphere in the hall to be eerie. At the top of the sky were rolling dark clouds. They were millions of feet tall like a world. Hanju looked up and saw 10 huge stone statues in front of him. The stone statues were sinister and ruthless with different postures. In front of the 10 stone statues was a stone staircase that was millions of steps tall. At the top was an altar that floated high in the sky. On the altar, a burly man with a bare upper body was meditating. His black hair was wild and scattered casually. His muscles were visually impactful, like a human-shaped ferocious beast. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Dijiang, Great Tao Sage, leader of the ancestral Magi, immeasurable emperor descendant of Pangu. Hanju was shocked. The ancestral Magi were really alive? Then, these 10 stone statues should be the remaining 10 ancestral Magi. Even Dijuan was still alive, so it was normal for Dijiang to be alive. In the legends of the primordial world that Hanju knew, the Magus race and the demon race were the two strongest races in the world. In order to fight for supremacy, they stirred up the immeasurable calamity. Other than Empress Hutu, who had transformed into reincarnation, all the 12 ancestral Magi perished with Dijuan and Eastern Emperor Tai. It was very tragic. Now it seemed that this history was not true. After all, Hanju had never experienced that history. Dijiang suddenly opened his eyes and muttered to himself, "Who is intercepting my Magus race bloodline?" Dijiang pinched his fingers to deduce. Then his expression became strange. "Hutu. Sai, forget it." Dijiang raised his hand to cast a spell. Seeing this, Hanju finally understood that Dijiang was restricting the Nether race's cultivation realm. As for why, he didn't know. The dream shattered. After returning to reality, Hanju touched his chin and thought. The best way to resolve this matter was to kill Dijiang. However, Dijiang had no grudge with him. He naturally wouldn't do such an immoral thing. Forget it, I'll wait a little longer. In any case, Dijiang was contacting Empress Hutu. When the two of them met, and he explained the matter, they should be able to remove the cultivation restrictions of the Nether race. Hanju became even more emotional. This pressure on the bloodline of the later generations was like a cultivator controlled by the Great Tao. Not bad. Hanju had also used bloodline suppression on Hantua, but that was done personally, unlike Dijiang's method, which was countless spaces away. It was truly unimaginable that he could easily do it. Thinking about it carefully, Hanju actually had no way to kill the Great Tao Sage. The previous chaotic deity and Kundi seemed to have perished, but they were actually faking their deaths, making Hanju unable to continue targeting them. The only one who died was Undying Tao, who was severely injured by Ancestor Shitian. It was caused by his and Ancestor Shitian's combined efforts. Hanju shook his head and laughed, not thinking about it anymore. In any case, he would surpass the Great Tao Sage sooner or later. One day, the Great Tao Sage would also be like a chicken or dog in front of him. He could be killed with ease. Immortal World, Human Imperial City. In a residence, Hanyu was meditating in the courtyard and cultivating. He was dressed in a white robe, still exuding a youth aura. He looked calm and imposing, and his face had the vicissitudes of time. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Hanju's disciple Long Hao. Long Hao was handsome, and looked like the evil heavenly emperor. He stood with Hanyu as if Hanju was facing him. Hanyu sensed his appearance and asked without opening his eyes, "What is it?" Long Hao chuckled. "I'm preparing to attack the Dragon Palace. Do you want to join forces? When I control the Dragon Palace, you can choose their divine weapons. You should know that the dragon race likes to collect treasures." Hanyu opened his eyes and rolled his eyes at him. He said angrily, "The last time I accompanied you to explore the mystic realm, my body was destroyed. You still want to trick me?" At this moment, Hao Tian's soul body rose above Long Hao's head. He smiled and said, "Young friend Han Yu, you can't say that. Didn't I give you the best natural treasure?" A soul body rose above Han Yu's head. This was the existence formed by the negative karma of the immeasurable calamity that Han Ju had helped Han Yu subdue. Calamities vengeful. That's nothing. Han Yu can obtain a treasure of the same value, with a word in the human race. The calamities vengeful snorted. His tone was very similar to Han Yu's. He knew Hao Tian. In the vast negative karma, some ghosts had seen him. Those memories had already been absorbed by the calamity. Hao Tian glared at him. How can the humans compare to the dragon race? TSK, can that human defeat the dragon race? If they fail, the human race will suffer. The two souls began to quarrel. Han Yu felt a headache. He looked at Long Hao and asked, "Must we go?" Long Hao spread his hands. "I have no choice. My master has given the order. If I don't complete it, I'm afraid I'll be expelled." Han Yu asked curiously, "Who is your master?" "The master of a zenith heaven golden immortal should be very strong, right? At least a pseudo-sage." He had been very curious before, but Long Hao refused to say. Long Hao smiled. "My master is a sage. How about it? Are you relieved with such a powerful backing?" Han Yu said disdainfully, "My master is also a sage. Your master has to kowtow in front of him. Impossible." Han Yu said angrily, as if he was humiliated. In his heart, Li Daokong was an indomitable mighty figure. He was the most arrogant person in the entire heavenly Tao. Long Hao chuckled, feeling even happier. Stupid kid. He deduced that Han Yu was Han Ju's descendant, but he didn't say it. Han Yu looked so similar to Han Ju. He was definitely related. That's why he had been taken in by Li Daokong. Li Daokong didn't even tell him the truth. He naturally didn't dare to interfere, lest he ruin Han Ju's plan. "All right, I'm serious. Come with me. I need you," Long Hao said solemnly. Han Yu was not weak. He had inherited Li Daokong's legacy and rarely encountered opponents of the same realm. After the heavenly Tao restarted, Long Hao's previous dragon court had long perished. There were even fewer old friends. He had previously visited some old friends, and all of them wanted to sever ties with him and were unwilling to follow him. It almost infuriated him. Helpless, he could only look for Han Yu. Long Hao said, "You can tell the human emperor about this. The human race is currently in a dilemma. If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to take the risk. Once I control the dragon race, I can help the human race. I have the bloodline of the true dragon race, and am a zenith heaven golden immortal. The 4 sea dragon kings are not my match, but I'm weak. I need your help to restrain the dragon race's useless troops." Of course, this was just empty talk. He wanted to prove his connections to the dragon race. Han Yu said, "I'll go find the human emperor." Go now," Long Hao urged. Han Yu could only move. 2 hours later, he appeared in the courtyard. Several people were accompanying him. They were all in the upper echelons of the human race. The human emperor was also among them. The human emperor looked to be in his 40s. He was not considered handsome, but his eyes were filled with dignity in his black robe. Chapter 649 Death in a Dream. Attack in the Netherworld. Chapter 649 Death in a Dream. Attack in the Netherworld. The human emperor stared at Long Hao and said, "Long Hao, the son of the previous heavenly emperor of the heavenly court. If I remember correctly, you have already entered the hidden sect and are seeking revenge on the dragon race. Is this your personal opinion, or is it the hidden sect's intention?" Long Hao smiled and asked, "What do you think?" The human emperor was silent. The other mighty figures looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. Hidden sect. Han Yu was moved. He remembered that Li Daokong was also from the hidden sect. Then, he thought of Long Hao's words. Was this fellow really not bragging? Could Li Daokong really have to bow down to his master? Long Hao said helplessly, "There are some things that I can't say clearly, understand? I actually don't think highly of the humans. It's just Han Yu. You should know who Han Yu's master is." The human mighty figures were moved. It was all thanks to Li Daokong that the human race could be where they were today. They had naturally tried their best to collect Li Daokong's legends, and had even spread them in the race. Li Daokong was a cultivator of the hidden sect. The sect master of the hidden sect was the high and mighty immeasurable merit divine, might heavenly sage. Human emperor said excitedly. Thank you for the opportunity the hidden sect has given us. We humans are willing to help you subdue the dragon race. Long Hao smiled. In that case, go get ready. We'll leave at any time. All right. The human emperor and the mighty figures immediately left. They were clearly very excited, thinking that they had boarded the hidden sect's bus. After they left, Han Yu frowned and asked, the hidden sect has taken a liking to the humans? If that was the case, Li Daokong would definitely give him an order. But he did not. He suspected that Long Hao was bluffing. However, it had to be said that the banner of the hidden sect was too attractive. The hidden sect had many branches. They went from the heavenly race to the nine nether. If they could obtain their protection, the human race would be safe. Long Hao smiled. Don't worry, I won't trick you. Han Yu looked at him deeply. Your master is the master of the hidden sect? Then, what's my master's identity in the hidden sect? First Guardian. My master is really powerful. Hee. You're not convinced? I'll tell my master. No, I'm convinced. I'm most convinced by Li Daokong. 1,000 years later, Han Ju opened his eyes again and checked his emails habitually. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by a mysterious Dao Devil, X892048. Your son Han Tua was attacked by an inauspicious evil, X10928327. Your disciple Yang Tiandong was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your grand disciple Feng Liang dreamed of the Dao Ancestor when he was cultivating. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your disciple Zhou Fan obtained the dream of your enemy, 7 Dao Sage, and left the heavenly Dao. Your good friend Empress Hutu was attacked by a mysterious force and was severely injured. Han Tua was beaten up along with the evil heavenly emperor. Han Ju's heart didn't ache. He even wanted to laugh. He thought of the previous calamity and often saw the immortals of the heavenly court being beaten. Needless to say, it was quite interesting. He believed that the evil heavenly emperor would treat Han Tua well. After all, he had deduced the future. Han Ju continued reading. 7 Dao Sage and the Dao Ancestor were both moving. It was unknown what they were plotting. Forget about Feng Liang. Now that he had become the Dao Ancestor, Han Ju couldn't be bothered with him. But why did Zhou Fan leave the heavenly Dao? As for Empress Hutu, she was severely injured in the netherworld? Han Ju continued reading. After a while, he finished reading the emails and first visited Zhou Fan in his dreams. Zhou Fan was his highly regarded disciple. He couldn't ignore him. He had to at least put on a show for the 7 Dao Sage. In the dream, Zhou Fan suddenly opened his eyes and looked around in horror. Han Ju asked, "What's wrong?" Zhou Fan saw that it was him and hurriedly said, "Master, don't visit my dreams. I'm fighting." Han Ju immediately extinguished the dark nightmare and checked the emails. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by an inauspicious evil and was severely injured. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by an inauspicious evil. His body was destroyed and his soul was about to disperse. Your disciple Zhou Fan was protected by your enemy, 7 Dao Sage. His injuries have healed, and he has revived again. Han Ju looked at the 3 emails that appeared one after another, and couldn't help but be silent. Oops. It seemed that he had to be more cautious next time. The Dark Nightmare was a great Dao mystical power that could forcefully drag people into a dream, but the other party might die if they were in battle. That was true. Han Ju suddenly thought of something, and his eyes lit up. He smiled sinisterly. He could use this to deal with enemies in the future. Han Ju stopped thinking and sent a dream to Empress Hutu. The dream was the Yellow Spring. Han Ju asked first, "Are you fighting?" Empress Hutu was stunned. "No, why do you ask?" Han Ju said, "I sent a dream to my disciple just now. He was fighting and almost died because of it." Empress Hutu. Han Ju remained silent. Empress Hutu was attacked by a mysterious force. The sages did not react, which meant that this matter was very hidden. How should he ask? "I was injured not long ago. A mysterious existence is spying on the netherworld." Empress Hutu suddenly sighed. She continued, "I don't know who the other party is, but his power is very strong, and can counteract my power of reincarnation. He's at least a freedom sage. Otherwise, he won't be able to enter the netherworld. Hanju said in surprise. A freedom sage shouldn't be able to break through the power of the heavenly Tao, right? Empress Huda said. Perhaps he used some secret technique. His strength is indeed stronger than a heavenly Tao sage, but he's not much stronger. Furthermore, I sense a familiar aura from him, but I can't remember from where. She was a sage of reincarnation. How could she not remember this? The other party must have erased karma, preventing Empress Hutu from deducing. Hanju asked in his mind, I want to know who attacked Empress Hutu? For the sake of others, Hanju really didn't want to waste his lifespan. However, if the netherworld was broken, the heavenly Tao would be in danger. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A line of words appeared in front of him. Fuxishan, great Tao sage, ancestor of the human race, immeasurable emperor, ancestor of the 8 trigrams Fuxishan. Hanju frowned. Why did this fellow become a great Tao sage? He didn't see it in the emails either. Achieving the great Tao as soon as he died was not simple. This was cheating. Hanju said. I have to tell the other sages about this. If you can't ask, I'll go. Empress Huda said. Thank you. The dream ended. Hanju directly came to the 33rd heaven and gathered the other sages in Sect Master Tianju's Tao field. He told them about Empress Huda being attacked. The sages were shocked. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said in surprise, Why can't we sense it? Heavenly Venerate Wufa snorted. Needless to say, the other party is far stronger than us. He can even avoid the heavenly secrets. The sages were silent. Feng Liang said, No, if the other party attacks in the heavenly Tao, it's impossible for him to avoid the power of the heavenly Tao unless he's a heavenly Tao life form. In addition, the netherworld is the lowest level of the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Tao life form? Could it be Heavenly Venerate Xiandu? Only he's far stronger than us, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate added. Hanju glanced at him. You really know how to guess. Hanju had no choice but to say, It shouldn't be Heavenly Venerate Xiandu. I've been contacting him. By the way, did the sages who died previously really die? Chapter 650 Primordial Origin, Primordial Fiend Celestial. Chapter 650 Primordial Origin, Primordial Fiend Celestial. You mean a sage is faking his death? Sect Master Tianju frowned and asked. Li Daokong mocked. The fate of you sages is indeed unpredictable. Qiu Shilai said. Sage fated secrets and Sage Jinan died after becoming mad sages. Li Muyi was killed by fellow Taoist Han, leaving only Nuwa and Fuxishan. Especially Fuxishan. We didn't see him die with our own eyes. Fuxishan. Feng Liang pinched his fingers to deduce, and his eyes flickered. Sect Master Tianju said in confusion. Isn't Fuxishan the weakest heavenly Tao sage? How can he be far stronger than us? Even if he obtained a huge opportunity during this period of time, it's impossible for his strength to increase so quickly. Fellow Taoist Han isn't even this fast. The others also discussed. It's indeed impossible. It's not Fuxishan. Could it be Nuwa? Empress Nuwa is indeed unfathomable. Previously, when we killed her, I felt that it was too easy. Could it be that Nuwa didn't die? That's right, it's her. After she died, her primordial purple chi couldn't be found at all. Doesn't this mean something? What should we do? Should we find Nuwa? Seeing that they found out the truth, Hanju was satisfied. Feng Liang said, It's impossible to find her. The other party attacked Empress Hutu, and must be targeting the heavenly Tao. We can only increase our defense against the netherworld. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate asked, How? We sages can't go. But if a pseudo-sage goes, they will be cannon fodder. I have a plan, which is to increase the number of mortal worlds between the netherworld and the immortal world, causing the providence of the heavenly Tao to protect the netherworld. The stronger the power of the heavenly Tao in the netherworld, the harder it is for the enemy to invade. Feng Liang's plan made the sages ponder. However, nurturing mortal worlds was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Emperor Shao suddenly said, It's fine to nurture the mortal worlds, but I think the most effective way is to move the heavenly race to the netherworld. After all, The heavenly race is a heavenly Tao race. The sages looked at him in surprise. If the heavenly race moved to the netherworld, they would definitely lose control of the immortal world. Then, who could inherit the authority of the heavenly race? They couldn't help but look at Feng Liang. Were they colluding? Han Ju was expressionless and didn't feel that there was anything wrong. In fact, this was indeed the best way to increase the power of the heavenly Tao in the netherworld. Feng Liang could only say that he took advantage of the situation. Sect Master Tianju looked at Han Ju and asked, "What do you think, fellow Taoist Han?" Han Ju said, "Both are feasible. During the heavenly Tao calamity, we should put down our own benefits and consider the heavenly Tao. No plan is completely identical to our losses or benefits." He wasn't afraid that Feng Liang would act recklessly. If he showed any signs of messing around, he would directly throw him into the primordial heavenly prison. The other sages naturally had no objections. Han Ju didn't participate in the rest. He returned to the 100-peak immortal river and continued cultivating. The sages moved very quickly. In less than a few months, they sent their highly regarded disciples to the bottom of the immortal world to approach the netherworld and open up a world. Although the two worlds of Yin and Yang were opposites, there was also a threshold. In addition, the heavenly race also began to move to the netherworld. Facing the arrangements of the sages, Ji Xianxian appeared very obedient and did not even question them. The day Feng Liang became a sage, he knew that he had lost. On the other side, the humans had attacked the dragon race many times and had been in a stalemate for hundreds of years. Finally, it ended. The dragon race had a new leader. It was Long Hao. At the same time, the two races shook hands and formed an alliance. This matter caused a huge commotion in the immortal world. The dragon race was a first-rate race with deep foundations, but they were actually defeated by the humans? The living beings who knew the inside story were shocked by the terrifying strength of the hidden sect. At first, the humans were not the dragon race's match at all. They even suffered heavy casualties because of this. Long Hao had no choice but to seek the help of the Holy Mother sect. Once the Holy Mother sect attacked, the heavenly race, the Chan school, and the Jie school also struck. Before they even fought, the dragon race couldn't withstand the pressure and raised the white flag. The commotion caused by this matter was ultimately covered up by the matter of the heavenly race moving to the netherworld. After the heavenly race headed to the netherworld, the heavenly Tao lineage controlled by Feng Liang began to call itself the immortal gods and took control of the heavenly rules of the world. This was the difference between a sage and a mortal. A sage could decide the authority of the heavenly Tao's myriad worlds with a few words. They didn't even need to threaten with force. Time flew. Another 1,000 years passed. Han Ju opened his eyes and habitually checked his emails. Han Tuo and the evil heavenly emperor were still being beaten. How bitter! Although he was being beaten, Han Tuo's cultivation was increasing very quickly. He was already at the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Battle was very effective. After reading the emails, Han Ju asked in his mind, "Will Feng Liang become my enemy in the future?" The Heavenly Tao sect was recruiting immortals again, with a huge commotion. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? TSK. Was Feng Liang already equivalent to the Heavenly Tao? Continue. No, Han Ju heaved a sigh of relief. The reason why he did not deal with Feng Liang was that he believed in him. Although Feng Liang had become the Tao ancestor, he might not tell him his ambitions and plans. Will Feng Liang betray the Heavenly Tao? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No. After receiving a clear answer, Han Ju was completely relieved. However, this was only Feng Liang. Han Ju couldn't deduce the Tao ancestor's true intentions. Han Ju looked at the netherworld. Ever since the heavenly race moved to the netherworld, a large amount of the heavenly Tao's providence surged there, causing it to no longer be covered in dark clouds. Sunlight even appeared. The light formed by providence and the power of reincarnation increased, causing the order of the netherworld to also recover. The ghost deities also benefited. Only the immortals of the heavenly race were unhappy. Only their benefits were damaged. In short, everything was developing in a good direction. Hanju's gaze passed through the netherworld and spied the dark forbidden zone outside. He suddenly saw something. It was a stone tablet with a coffin behind it. There were all sorts of strange patterns carved on the coffin, as if ghosts were about to rush out at any moment. Seeing this coffin, Hanju felt inexplicably terrified. He couldn't sense the aura of the coffin and the stone tablet at all. If he didn't see them coincidentally, he would probably take a long time to discover them. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce. He couldn't deduce the origin of this coffin. He had no choice but to use the derivation function. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So expensive? It was even more valuable than the ancestor. Hanju was even more nervous and carefully chose to continue. Primordial origin. Transformed from the primordial chaos fiend celestial. The primordial chaos fiend celestial was the last opponent of Pangu among the 3,000 fiend celestials. After being defeated, it sacrificed itself and transformed into the primordial chaos realm, so the great Tao exists forever. After absorbing the primordial chi, the primordial chaos fiend celestial will transform and become a primordial fiend celestial. Primordial chaos tablet. The primordial chaos fiend celestial's birth supreme treasure. It can absorb the dermic powers of all primordial chaos realm living beings. Primordial fiend celestial. Hanju widened his eyes. So other than him, there was really a primordial fiend celestial. Was the Tao ancestor not targeting him? This thing was a little strong. He was Pangu's last opponent. It was equivalent to being second only to Pangu among the 3,000 fiend celestials? Hanju had to ask cautiously. When will he enter the heavenly Tao? Chapter 651 Taking Refuge. Choosing Fiend Celestial Candidates. Chapter 651 Taking Refuge. Choosing Fiend Celestial Candidates. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Detected that primordial origin and the heavenly Tao reject each other, so it can't enter the heavenly Tao. Primordial origin doesn't have any ill intentions towards the heavenly Tao either. No ill intentions? Then why was he here? Hanju continued to derive and deducted another 200 billion years of his lifespan. He is avoiding a powerful existence. As for what it is, the system cannot derive it. So he was here to hide. Hanju hesitated to establish a connection with primordial origin. Once this fellow successfully transformed, he would be the same as him. No. Wouldn't this expose that he was a primordial fiend celestial? In any case, this fellow did not want to harm the heavenly Tao. It didn't matter to him. After Hanju made up his mind, he looked away. The appearance of primordial origin made Hanju feel a sense of danger. He still had to speed up the nurturing of the chaotic fiend celestials. Hanju called Great Loose Heaven into the Taoist temple. Great Loose Heaven's cultivation was already at the perfected pseudo-sage realm. It was very suitable for him to directly transform into a chaotic fiend celestial. It just so happened that Hanju did not want to give him the great Tao purple chi. He suppressed his excitement and greeted Hanju. He had been in the 100-peak immortal river for a period of time. Hanju finally called for him. Could it be to attain the Tao? Great Loose Heaven's heart that had experienced the vicissitudes of time began to tremble. The first thing Hanju said was, "Great Loose Heaven, is your goal to be a sage or higher?" Great Loose Heaven was stunned. Although he was a mighty figure of the immortal world, Great Loose Heaven didn't know about the deity realm of the ruins of End, and the extraordinary person hidden in the depths of the chaos. Even if he had gone to the deity realm of the ruins of End, he couldn't come into contact with such an existence. Great Loose Heaven asked carefully, "What do you mean?" Hanju said, "I'll give you two choices now. One is to attain the Tao and become a heavenly Tao sage. But this is the end. 2. I'll give you a supreme bloodline and help you gain the potential to surpass the sages. There's an even wider world outside the heavenly Tao. Do you know how I obtained my status? If I was only an ordinary sage, how can the other sages give the hidden sect a chance to develop? It's only because I've already surpassed the heavenly Tao sages. Even if the current sages join forces, they won't be my match." Hanju's tone was firm and confident. Great Loose Heaven was fascinated. What price does the second choice require? Hanju said pain. The process of replacing the bloodline is very painful. In addition, I'll move you to another place to cultivate diligently later. It's equivalent to losing your freedom. I'll only let you go after the Great Tao calamity ends. Great Tao immeasurable calamity. Great Lu's heaven was secretly shocked. Although he didn't understand what the Great Tao immeasurable calamity was, when he thought of the heavenly devil calamity and the flame race's calamity, it was obvious that the heavenly Tao was not as safe as before. Great Lu's heaven fell into a dilemma. Hanju wasn't in a hurry. He believed that Great Lu's heaven would make the right choice. If not for the fact that it was very difficult to get creation spirit stones, how could Hanju choose Great Lu's heaven? This was a huge opportunity. After a long while, Great Lu's heaven looked up and said, I choose the second path. Sect Master, please bestow me a supreme bloodline. His bloodline potential was already top-notch in the heavenly Tao, but he believed that Hanju would not lie to him. Hanju waved his hand and took Great Lu's heaven into the primordial world. He then directly crushed his body with the power of freedom and extracted his soul. Great Lu's heaven was shocked, but he did not shout or scream. Instead, he waited nervously. Hanju took him to the Fiend Celestial Qi. Looking at the balls of Fiend Celestial Qi in front of him, Great Lu's heaven's soul trembled. He felt like he was facing his natural enemy. A fatal sense of danger constantly corroded his heart. Hanju hesitated for a while and decided to give the Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial to Great Lu's heaven. The Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial had the same effect as the Avatar Fiend Celestial. It could split into countless great Tao shadows, and was one of the earliest Fiend Celestial Dharma idols that Hanju had comprehended. The fusion process was even more painful than Great Lu's heaven imagined. But in order not to embarrass himself in front of Hanju, he still endured it. In the blink of an eye, another 1,000 years passed. Seeing that Great Lu's heaven had already adapted to the power of the Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial, Hanju no longer used his dharmic powers to protect him. He turned his attention back to reality and started cultivating. He had been in seclusion for 1,000 years. When he opened his eyes again, Hanju stretched lazily. Such a cultivation pattern had already become a habit. If he didn't cultivate for 1,000 years, he would feel uncomfortable all over. 2,000 years passed. Dozens of new worlds had already appeared at the border of the two worlds. The heavenly race had also completely adapted to the days in the netherworld. Hanju looked at the immortal world and decided to choose some Fiend Celestial candidates. Previously, the flame race had attacked the immortal world. In terms of high-level combat strength, the immortal world was already behind. Hanju had a feeling the flame race was not the strongest race in the chaos. His gaze landed on the reroll world and on the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. After more than 100,000 years, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was still around. It was the strongest holy land in the reroll world. It was all thanks to the white-robed Buddha's support. However, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was no longer the same as before. The old location of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was already barren, far from the current Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Hanju suddenly wanted to take a walk. He sent out a soul thought and transformed into a clone to descend on the old location of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The mountains here were undulating. The 18 peaks of the Jade Pure Sect were no longer there. There were even very few people here. As he walked in the forest, the sunlight shone on Hanju through the cracks among the leaves. Images of the past appeared in his mind. For some reason, Hanju thought of the previous sect master of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect, Li Qingzi. Are you satisfied with the current Jade Pure Sacred Sect? Hanju muttered in an emotional tone. Unfortunately, the heavenly Tao had restarted, and Li Qingzi's soul had long dissipated. He didn't have a chance to see the Jade Pure Sacred Sect again. Hanju didn't use his sage sense to scan the surroundings. Instead, he blocked his senses and walked around, as if he was traveling the forest. Half a day later, Hanju stuffed a manual into a crack in a mountain. It was the 6 Paths of Reincarnation technique. If someone could obtain this manual and enter Hanju's vision, he could become a Fiend Celestial candidate. His soul thought returned to his body. Hanju's gaze turned to the immortal world. It was better to choose from the immortal world. The growth period of living beings in the mortal world was too long. For example, Yangdu was still far from becoming a pseudo-sage. For some reason, Han Ju suddenly thought of Han Ming. After parting with Han Tua, Han Ming cultivated in seclusion alone. He had not come out of seclusion for more than 10,000 years. Han Ju had severed the karma between them. However, Han Ming treated Han Tua very well in this life, which made him feel better. This kid's favorability towards Han Ju was already 6 stars. He shouldn't stab him in the back. The current Han Ming was already at the 6th mystic divine origin realm, but couldn't break through to the zenith heaven golden immortal realm. This was the limit of his potential. He wouldn't advance unless he became the disciple of a mighty figure. Han Ju sent him a voice transmission. Han Ming, who was cultivating in the cave abode, suddenly opened his eyes. Han Ming. Han Ju's voice sounded again, making Han Ming understand that he was not hallucinating. This voice, Han Ming couldn't forget it. Han Ming suppressed the huge waves in his heart and asked, "What is it? Want to join the hidden sect? You need me." "No, I'm just giving you an opportunity." "Then forget it. I don't want to cause trouble for you. I already owe you a lot." Han Ming shook his head. He had also hated Han Ju's ruthlessness in the past. But if not for him, the Heavenly Emperor wouldn't have helped him reincarnate. Therefore, he only felt reverence and gratitude towards Han Ju, and didn't even dare to approach him. Chapter 652 Merit to the Heavenly Tao Mysterious Senior. Chapter 652 Merit to the Heavenly Tao. Mysterious Senior. Hearing Han Ming's answer, Han Ju was speechless. "Do you want me to say it? You're not giving me face." Han Ju remained silent. Han Ming was also silent. After calming down, Han Ming realized that there was something wrong with his words. Han Ju wouldn't look for him for no reason. Han Ming asked again, "Are you still there?" All right, I'm willing to join the hidden sect." "Then pack up." "All right." 5 minutes later, Han Ming left for the 100-peak immortal river. Han Ju adjusted his state of mind and quickly entered cultivation again. Several years later, Han Ming came to the 100-peak immortal river and was directly taken into the Taoist temple by Han Ju. He didn't let Han Ming out, but stayed in the Taoist temple to cultivate. Han Ming sat on a mat and carefully glanced at him. Shining with divine light, he was unable to see Han Ju's true body. This was the first time he felt this pressure. Han Ming took a deep breath. He had also fantasized about cultivating beside Han Ju in the past, but he knew that the other party was cold and could only be delusional. Now that it had become reality, he actually felt that it was unreal. Han Ming mocked himself. What was he thinking? He stopped thinking and focused on cultivating. Han Ju didn't say anything to him. Perhaps he wanted to see his cultivation attitude and potential. He couldn't lose face. Little did he know that the reason why Han Ju ignored him was to complete the requirement of 1,000 years of seclusion. His cultivation couldn't be interrupted. Outside the 33rd heaven, the sages gathered in the Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du had already returned. He scanned the sages and said, "Fellow Taoist Han and I joined forces and obtained the Earth Immortal World. Next, I plan to fuse the Earth Immortal World into the Heavenly Tao and create a spatial tunnel between the two worlds to connect them." Earth Immortal World. The sages looked at each other. They had all heard of this world. In the past, the Earth Immortal World was also a part of the Immortal World. Just like the ancient Desolate, after the Battle of the Sages, the primordial world shattered and split into many pieces. Now only the immortal world remained in the Heavenly Tao. Qiu Shilai said, "Yes, just tell us if you need us to do anything." The other sages did not have any objections and felt that this matter was not too big. Emperor Shao said, "Recently, a mysterious coffin appeared outside the netherworld. Its aura is unfathomable. I don't dare to approach it. It's still up to the Heavenly Venerate to decide." Oh, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du couldn't help but look outside the netherworld. After a while, he saw Primordial Origin's coffin. He couldn't help but frown. He immediately vanished. The other sages followed closely behind. The sages came to Primordial Origin's coffin together. Fong Liang stared at it and frowned. The stone tablet in front of the coffin did not move, but it caused the sages' hearts to palpitate. What is this? When did it appear? Emperor Shao, why didn't you say so earlier? I just discovered it not long ago. Besides, the heavenly venerate wasn't present. Do you dare to investigate? In any case, I don't dare. Why didn't I find this before? Could it be that this is the item that attacked Empress Huda earlier? The sages communicated in a low voice. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du sent a voice transmission to Empress Hutu. Soon she appeared. Did this thing hurt you? Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du pointed at Primordial Origin's coffin and asked. Empress Huda shook her head. No, the aura is completely different. What is this? Who is hidden in the coffin? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said. We're not sure either. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate raised his eyebrows. Should we think of a way to suppress it? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du shook his head. He carefully stared at Primordial Origin's coffin and fell into deep thought. At this moment, the stone tablet shook violently, startling all the sages. They took out their respective supreme treasures and waited solemnly. Streaks of blood appeared on the stone tablet. Words were written on it like long bleeding worms. Soon a line of words appeared. It was difficult to understand. The sages couldn't understand. Feng Liang read. Born in chaotic times, merit to the heavenly Tao died of fate, and was reborn in the primordial chaos. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate asked in surprise. You can understand it? Feng Liang said. The Tao ancestor taught me such words. They are written by the chaotic fiend celestial. The sages were deep in thought. They couldn't understand, so they didn't dare to confirm if Feng Liang was telling the truth. Li Daokong said. Let's think of a way to eliminate it or drive it away. Shi Dudao nodded. I agree. Li Daokong glanced at him with disdain. Shi Dudao pretended not to see it. Merit to the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du muttered. Feng Liang said. It should be a chaotic fiend celestial in the coffin. As for this stone tablet, it's probably a supreme treasure. We should be careful. The sages nodded and continued to discuss how to deal with Primordial Origin. Hanju opened his eyes. He entered seclusion for another 1,000 years in joy. He had already begun to treat 1,000 years as a day. He was improving every day. This feeling was too satisfying. Hanju looked at Han Ming beside him. In the past 1,000 years, Han Ming had also been cultivating diligently and had never spoken. He was very well behaved. Not bad. Hanju directly teleported them to the second Dao field. Han Ming opened his eyes and discovered that the Taoist temple had changed. Hanju said, cultivate here in the future. You can take a walk outside. There are a total of 5 people in this Dao field including you. Listen to Morongqi in the future. Morongqi? Han Ming noted it down silently. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Morongqi. After telling him Han Ming's background, he returned to the 100-peak Immortal River. He stood in the Taoist temple and stretched, checking his emails. Your son Han Tua has invaded a little heavenly Tao. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by your enemy Fuxician. He was severely injured. Your good friend Jing Tiangong has entered the dark forbidden zone. Your disciple Long Hao has absorbed the providence of the dragon race, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your son Han Tua was attacked by a little heavenly Tao life form, X6720239. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian has entered the Ancient Desolate. Your good friend Pan Xian has entered the Ancient Desolate. Your descendant Han Yu received a dream from your enemy, Niwa. His cultivation has increased greatly. Recently Fuxician had been very active. Even Niwa had begun to move around, and had even found Han Yu. There was definitely a conspiracy. Hanju continued reading. After he finished reading all the emails, he sent a dream to Han Yu. In the dream, Han Yu opened his eyes and saw Hanju, who was glowing with divine light. He immediately became vigilant. What's going on? An illusion? Han Yu frowned, as if he was facing a great enemy. Hanju smiled teasingly. Little fellow, you don't remember me? Han Yu's eyes widened when he heard the voice, and he said with a trembling voice, Senior, it's you? Although he had already acknowledged Li Daokong as his master, he would never forget the mysterious mighty figure who had given him a cultivation technique. If not for that mighty figure, how could he have cultivated to a level that satisfied Li Daokong? So you still remember me? I thought you forgot about me after becoming my disciple. Hanju smiled. Han Yu hurriedly cupped his fists. I will never forget Senior's kindness. What instructions do you have for me, Senior? Hanju said. Has anyone visited you in your dreams recently? Han Yu frowned. He couldn't help but think of Niua's dream. Why did it attract this mysterious senior? Niua was an existence that surpassed sages. This mysterious senior was definitely not weak. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to sense it. Chapter 653 Ancestor Laozi's Choice. Chapter 653 Ancestor, Laozi's Choice. I'm asking you a question. Can you tell me? Hanju saw Han Yu lost in thought, and couldn't help but interrupt him. What was this kid pretending to be? If he continued pretending, Hanju would throw him into the primordial heavenly prison. Han Yu came back to his senses and hesitated. Niua has also done me a favor. I'm afraid, Hanju said angrily. Do you know who I am? You are. I'm your ancestor. Impossible. Han Yu subconsciously rejected him. He had seen Han Tua before. He was very annoying and pretentious. Han Yu suddenly thought of something, and his expression shook. His body couldn't help but tremble. The painful memories that had been sealed in the depths of his heart appeared. Back then, when he was in the greatest despair, he had begged his ancestor Han Tua to save the Han family. Han Tua had not replied to him. While he was filled with anger and hatred, a savior he had never imagined appeared. It was his ancestor's ancestor. After so many years, Han Yu had also tried to find his life-saving ancestor, but he had never found him. So, he has been taking care of me all along. He even gave me a cultivation technique. Han Yu was touched and aggrieved. Although he already had descendants, in front of his ancestors, he would always be a child. Seeing Han Yu's eyes turn red, Hanju had a headache. He hated such emotional scenes the most. Since you know who I am, you also know why I helped you. Now, you should also understand why Niua is looking for you. Hanju snorted and said sternly. Han Yu's emotions were interrupted. He was a deity realm existence after all. He naturally wouldn't act like a child anymore. He was no fool. There was no love in the world without a reason. Why did Niua look for him? Did she really think highly of his talent? Han Yu's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 6 stars. Han Yu took a deep breath and said, Niua told me that the Heavenly Tao sages are not really doing this for the good of the Heavenly Tao. She was plotted against by the sages, and had no choice but to pretend to die. She wanted to nurture me to become a sage, and let me lead the human race, to ascend to the Heavenly Tao race again. Niua still remembered the humans. In Hanju's impression, Niua cared more about the demons than humans. Otherwise, with the backing of a sage, how could the human race be in trouble? Hanju asked in his mind. Is what Hanyu said true? 50 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Niua did tell him that. Hanju looked at him and said, Since we've already acknowledged each other, I'll preach the Tao for you. Hanyu was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly thanked him. Hanju immediately used the great Tao of extreme origin to drown Hanyu's consciousness, making him immersed in the vastness of the great Tao. After a certain period of time, Hanyu opened his eyes. It was as if he had a dream. Once he woke up, the world he knew had already changed drastically. With Hanju's help, he could be considered to have truly come into contact with the great Tao. Although he had yet to truly step into the great Tao of extreme origin, he had at least laid the foundation. After comprehending the great Tao, Hanyu's senses and thoughts changed drastically. His entire temperament also became much more stable. Hanyu suddenly thought of something and muttered with a vexed expression. I forgot to ask for my ancestor's name. Sai. Although it was a sigh, Hanyu quickly smiled. In the past he always felt lonely. Now that he saw Hanju, he understood that he also had someone to care about. His heart was warm. He thought of Han Tua again. Just you wait, I will definitely surpass you. Hanyu's eyes burned with fighting spirit. He spent 50 years preaching to Hanyu. After Hanju severed the dream, he didn't start cultivating immediately. Instead, He looked at Primordial Origin's coffin outside the netherworld. Primordial Origin's coffin was still there, and the Primordial Chaos tablet did not move. However, Hanju felt the remnant aura of the sages nearby. It seemed that the sages had already discovered Primordial Origin some time ago. Hanju looked at the heavenly Tao. It was invisible, but the providence of the heavenly Tao wrapped the immortal world and the myriad worlds like a huge barrier. He discovered that a line appeared beside this huge barrier. The other end of this providence line entered the darkness and was connected to the distant earth immortal world. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du also returned. After hesitating for a moment, Hanju still decided to find Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. He arrived outside the 33rd heaven and had just appeared in the Universal Hall when the door opened. Hanju arrived in front of Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "You're here for the mysterious coffin outside the netherworld, right?" Hanju nodded. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sighed. "I've contacted Master. This coffin has a powerful background. He escaped from the ancient desolate. The reason why he came to the Heavenly Tao is to use the Heavenly Tao's providence to avoid the inauspicious evil and Tao devils." Hanju asked in surprise. The Heavenly Tao can also block the inauspicious evil and Tao devils? Previously, an inauspicious deity had infiltrated the immortal world. If not for the strange deity going to devour it, the immortal world would definitely be in chaos. That's right. This is also why the inauspicious evil is only in the dark forbidden zone, while the Tao devils are only in the deity realm of the ruins of End. The Heavenly Tao might not be powerful, but its rules are extremely high. Like giant god Pengu, the Heavenly Tao is definitely the safest place in the chaos, but it's also the place with the most shackles. It's like a prison. You can be safe in it, but you won't be able to escape it. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du nodded. Hanju asked, "If the inauspicious evil infiltrates the Heavenly Tao, what does that mean?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du shook his head. "Impossible." The next second, he seemed to have thought of something and looked terrified. Hanju was already making it clear. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stood up and said, "I have to tell Master." Hanju nodded and left. After returning to the 100-peak Immortal River, Hanju felt relaxed. It had to be said that it was really good to have Heavenly Venerate Xian Du around. He could do anything. Hanju thought of Li Qingzi inexplicably. Back then, he had always cultivated in peace. Li Qingzi was always busy with everything in the sect. At most, Li Qingzi would ask him what to do. Sigh. He was really getting old and nostalgic. Hanju laughed at himself. He continued cultivating. 800 years later, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sent him a voice transmission, saying that he had something to discuss. Hanju replied that he had to enter seclusion for 1,000 years. He was still 200 years away. Although Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was puzzled, he could only agree. After the 1,000 years were up, Hanju came to the Universal Hall to see him. Hanju asked, "What is it?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "I've asked. They are inauspicious deities. They are existences who have developed intelligence among the inauspicious evil. Now, there are mysterious existences among the inauspicious deities who have gathered them and might be about to succeed. They can't affect the Heavenly Tao for the time being. We can be at ease." "Oh," Hanju responded. He was very curious about Laozi. Laozi seems to be biased towards the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "Be it the inauspicious deity or the chaotic Fian Celestial's coffin, we can ignore them. This time, I've returned from the deity realm of the ruins of End and brought a prodigy. Fellow Taoist Han, do you want to take him in as your disciple? Giving me a disciple of the human school? Do you want to plant spies?" Hanju rolled his eyes. Chapter 654 Guanbubi. Chapter 654 Guanbubi. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du rolled his eyes and said, "Since you're so afraid of spies, why did you accept Li Daokong and Li Xianao? It's different. Li Muyi was chasing after them." Hehe. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du didn't want to talk to him. Although Li Muyi made him unhappy, the human school had lost its face after all. He didn't want to mention it lest it hurt Hanju's relationship with him. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said seriously, "This child is not simple. He was a freedom sage in his previous life, and died when he tried to break through to the great Tao in the chaos. He's a Khanate life form with the highest potential. He might even reach the potential of a chaotic fiend celestial in the future. Hanju asked in surprise. If he's so powerful, why are you giving him to me? Because he doesn't submit to me. In the heavenly Tao, only you can subdue him. Why do we have to subdue him? He has too many enemies in the deity realm of the ruins of End. I want to rope him into the heavenly Tao, but he holds it in disdain. Fellow Taoist Han, this child values relationships. Once he acknowledges you, he will definitely not leave the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stared at Hanju and said helplessly, the current heavenly Tao was weak. If he did not rope in some geniuses from the outside world and relied on himself to develop, it would be too slow. Hanju thought for a moment and said, all right, where is he? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, when he comes, I'll tell him to go to the 100-peak immortal river to find you. All right. Hanju and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du chatted about the reincarnation space again. Although he had already successfully grasped the Earth immortal world, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du did not plan to give up on the reincarnation space. Immortal Emperor Samsara and the disciples of the human school, who controlled the reincarnation space, would use the providence of the Earth immortal world to attain the Tao. There would only be 2 heavenly Tao sages in the Earth immortal world. This was Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's guarantee to Hanju. Not only that, but the other sage sects were also not allowed to enter the Earth immortal world. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and Hanju were only separated by the Earth immortal world. Hanju was very satisfied with this. If Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was really impartial, Hanju would suspect him. No matter how powerful an existence was, they would still want benefits. You couldn't see it, but the difference in cultivation realm was huge. After chatting, Hanju returned to the 100-peak immortal river. He sent his consciousness into the primordial world in his body. Great Loose Heaven's transformation process was about to end smoothly. Hanju hoped that the heavenly Tao would reduce the tribulation and give him time to develop. More than 600 years later, a man appeared outside the 100-peak immortal river. He wore a blue robe and looked imposing. The arrogance that emitted from his bones was very obvious. I am Guanbubi. I'm recommended by Heavenly Venerate Xian Du to visit the sect master of the hidden sect, the blue-robed man said. His voice spread throughout the 100-peak immortal river, waking all the disciples. Hanju was busy cultivating in seclusion and didn't pay attention to him immediately. After waiting for a day, Guanbubi was furious and immediately rushed to the Universal Hall outside the 33rd heaven. Seeing Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, he asked, why is that immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage ignoring me? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du had a headache. He likes to enter seclusion for 1,000 years every time. Previously, when I looked for him, I had to wait until his seclusion ended. Guanbubi frowned. Why is this person so pretentious? It's not pretending. He prioritizes cultivation. Aren't you such a person? Guanbubi was silent. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said earnestly, immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage kill Tao heavenly devil and the dark sage king. How many mighty figures in the deity realm of the ruins of End want to kill him? But they can't. Following him, you will have the opportunity to surpass your previous life. I've already told you about his growth speed. You should understand. Hearing this, Guanbubi turned around and left. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du closed his eyes. Hanju entered seclusion for another 1,000 years. Unknowingly, he was already 170,000 years old. Time truly did not spare anyone. In the blink of an eye, the stars had shifted. Hanju opened his eyes and moved the champion, who had been waiting outside the 100-peak immortal river for 10 years, into his Tao field. More than 300 years ago, Hanju knew that Guanbubi came. At that time, it even caused a system notification. Detected bearer of Khanate providence, check its origin. Seeing this notification, Hanju sighed. It had been a long time. He checked the information again. Guanbubi, late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, Freedom Reincarnation, Khanate Lifeform, Invincible Heart, Chaotic Profound Technique. In his previous life, He was attacked when he was attempting to break through to the great Dao fruit, and had no choice but to reincarnate as a remnant soul. Hanju wasn't looking forward to Guanbubi, to begin with, so he didn't break his own cultivation rule for this. It was a good opportunity to suppress him. At that time, the words that Guanbubi said sounded extremely conceited. With such a personality, if he really acknowledged Hanju as his master, he might cause many troubles in the future. Guanbubi opened his eyes and discovered that he had arrived at a Taoist temple. His gaze landed on Hanju, who was covered in divine light, and looked extremely mysterious. He curled his lips slightly. How pretentious. This guy was even better at pretending than him. Guanbubi had been wandering around the immortal world for the past few years, and didn't expect to return, and wait for another 10 years. He was a little dissatisfied with Hanju. He did not speak. Hanju didn't say anything either. The Taoist temple fell silent, and the atmosphere was awkward. In the end, Guanbubi couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean? Xiandu didn't tell you clearly?" Hanju smiled, calling him Xiandu by name. "It seems that you don't care about heavenly venerate Xiandu in that case. Why do you want to become my disciple?" Guanbubi said, "No matter how strong heavenly venerate Xiandu is, he's only at the freedom realm. I was also at this realm in my previous life, and was of the same generation as him. As for why I wanted to acknowledge you as my master, it's because you're a chaotic fiend celestial. The great Dao realm is not difficult for you to attain." Hanju raised his eyebrows. From the sound of it, it was very easy for a chaotic fiend celestial to become a great Dao sage. At least this had already spread. Guanbubi believed it firmly. Hanju said, "You can acknowledge me as your master. From now on, you can only stay in my Dao field. You are not allowed to leave without my orders." Guanbubi said, "All right, but I have to make one thing clear. Once I reach the freedom realm, I have to leave and pursue my great Dao. In the future, if I attain the great Dao, I will still acknowledge you as my master. As long as you don't go against my principles, you can entrust anything to me." His tone was neither humble nor servile. It was as if he was discussing a cooperation with Hanju. Hanju reached out and sucked Guanbubi in front of him, directly using absolute purification on him. Guanbubi said in a low voice, "What do you mean?" He couldn't break free from Hanju's dermic powers and couldn't move, so he was a little flustered. After all, he was only a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal now. Hanju said calmly, "You fled from the deity realm of the ruins of End. I'm worried that you have other mighty figures' tricks on you. I'll help you eliminate them. Don't worry. If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't go to so much trouble." Guanbubi heaved a sigh of relief. After the absolute purification ended, Hanju let Li Xianao arrange a residence, and opened the authority of the simulation trial for Guanbubi. At this point Hanju had another disciple. When the personal disciples learned of this, they came to visit Guanbubi. However, he directly entered seclusion and did not see them. This made the personal disciples unhappy. Li Xianao said meaningfully, "This new disciple is at the late stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm." Chapter 655 Calamity Race, Confrontation. Chapter 655 Calamity Race, Confrontation. Hanju didn't dislike Guanbubi's conceitedness. At least, he didn't mock the other disciples, or show off his cultivation. The first thing he did after entering the sect was to enter seclusion. This determination made Hanju very satisfied. The path of cultivation was indeed not lonely. Hanju started to check his emails. The emails in the past 10,000 years were no different, but there was nothing that caught his attention. After reading the emails, Hanju continued cultivating. 4,000 years passed in a flash. Hanju opened his eyes and teleported to the second Dao field. His eyes narrowed, and a figure appeared in front of him. It was Great Loose Heaven. Great Loose Heaven had already successfully transformed into the Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial. After landing, Great Loose Heaven fell into a daze. He suddenly woke up and hurriedly knelt down. "Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master. Great Loose Heaven will forever be loyal to you." Great Loose Heaven said excitedly, with his 6-star favorability towards him. Hanju believed that he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Hanju smiled. Go out. Cultivate here in the future and listen to Wuxia. All right. Great Loose Heaven did not say anything else. After bowing, he walked out of the Taoist temple. Wuxia and the others sensed his aura and immediately walked over. Learning that Great Loose Heaven had also transformed into a chaotic fiend celestial, they congratulated him. After knowing that Great Loose Heaven was a terrifying existence at the perfected pseudo-sage realm, Yang Du became even more nervous. At the same time, he looked forward to his future even more. Everyone here was a chaotic fiend celestial. He would be the next. Great Loose Heaven knew that there were actually other chaotic fiend celestials. He was even more shocked, but he hid it in his heart. What was the sect master trying to do? Cultivate a chaotic fiend celestial army? There were already 4 chaotic fiend celestials. There would be more in the future. Great Loose Heaven thought of the scene of a group of chaotic fiend celestials coming out of seclusion and sweeping through the chaos in the future. His blood boiled, and his fighting spirit soared. Hanju didn't leave the second Dao field immediately. He began to observe Run Gang and Yin Hongchen. The two of them were already Grand Unity True Immortals. Ever since Yang Du, they had become top reincarnators in the reincarnation space. Hanju didn't ask Immortal Emperor Samsara to take care of them. They could reach this point because of their own efforts. It was worth mentioning that there were some conflicts between the two of them. They had fought before, and there was no outcome. After entering the reincarnation space, the two of them soared into the sky. They were even stronger than Yang Du back then. Apart from their own potential that was higher than Yang Du's, it was all thanks to the reincarnation space that had already occupied the Earth immortal world and enjoyed its providence. The speed at which the reincarnators became stronger was several times faster than before. Hanju thought for a moment and decided to visit them in their dreams and preach the Tao to them. He directly pulled the two of them into the same dream. Without waiting for their reaction, the great Tao of extreme origin drowned their consciousness. At the edge of the galaxy, there was a planet shining with countless lights. Thousands of space stations circled around it. There were as many flying transports as there were locusts. On the planet, a majestic building was surrounded by clouds. At the highest level, a woman sat on the shiny glass floor. The walls were filled with technological light and were dazzling. She wore a tight black cultivation robe that accentuated her figure perfectly. She was Yin Hongchen. She suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were confused and her body trembled slightly. After a long time, she calmed down and muttered, "Was that a dream? No, my cultivation level has actually increased by quite a bit. It must be the work of that mysterious senior who taught me my cultivation back then." Yin Hongchen's eyes lit up. She was already a top-notch reincarnator. She had tried all sorts of rewards in the reincarnation space and had never experienced such an experience. Yin Hongchen couldn't help but be curious about that senior. Who was he? Why was he nurturing her? Unable to figure it out, Yin Hongchen began to recall what she comprehended. Extreme origin. On the other side, on a meteor, a burly man with a naked upper body sat in a huge pit. His black hair fluttered slightly and his aura was wild. He was the other fiend celestial candidate Hanju had chosen, Ren Gang. Ren Gang slowly opened his eyes. He was also shocked by the great Tao of extreme origin. "Who are you? Am I not an orphan?" Ren Gang's expression became complicated. This unparalleled expert who ruled the Milky Way began to worry. After returning to the 100-peak immortal river, Hanju didn't continue cultivating. Instead, he preached the Tao to the disciples. Under the attack of the hidden punishment lineage, the disciples who went out and didn't return had been captured. The disciples who didn't return were all dead. This time, Guan Bubi was immersed in the lecture. 100 years pass quickly. Guan Bubi has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 5 stars. After becoming his disciple, he didn't have a good impression of Hanju. This time, he directly reached 5 stars. Indeed, he had to show his strength. Hanju smiled. He was looking forward to being undefeated. He could sense that Guan Bubi had already stepped into the great Tao of extreme origin. His comprehension speed was faster than all the other disciples. The prodigies from the chaos were indeed different. He planned to nurture Guan Bubi until he was invincible. He wasn't afraid of him betraying the sect after that. After all, there was the primordial heavenly prison. Hanju already wanted to arrange a chaotic fiend celestial position for Guan Bubi. Sages, come to the Universal Hall immediately. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice suddenly entered Hanju's ears, his tone revealing a hint of anxiety. Surprised, Hanju immediately looked at the netherworld. Indeed, a large amount of aura approached from the dark forbidden zone, outside the netherworld, as if it wanted to drown it. Inauspicious evil? No, although it was invisible, the aura was strong and not as mysterious as the inauspicious evil. Hanju frowned. He immediately headed to the Universal Hall. In the Universal Hall, the sages gathered and discussed the mysterious aura outside the netherworld. Hanju didn't interrupt. When Heavenly Venerate Xian Du suddenly appeared, the sages turned to look at him. The impatient South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was the first to ask, "Who is it this time?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sighed. The Calamity race is the strongest race in the deity realm of the Ruins of End. This time, they have the backing of Fuxishan and the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. As expected, Fuxishan is not dead. His backing is Nuwa. Nuwa is the first-generation sage and has long been a great Dao sage. She was an important pawn left behind by the first-generation sages to supervise the next Heavenly Dao sages. After the Dao ancestor disappeared, the situation of the Calamity changed drastically. That was why she escaped. Fuxishan is a sage supported by Nuwa. They're actually siblings. Fuxishan and Nuwa are united. This Calamity is equivalent to a showdown. The sages frowned. They were not surprised that Nuwa was still alive. After all, they had guessed so before. Fong Liang asked, "How's the Calamity race compared to the Flame race?" Sure Dudao snorted. "They must be stronger. Otherwise, would they be sent here just to die?" Li Daokong smiled disdainfully. "That's right." The sages looked at them in surprise. Why were these two sages suddenly on the same side? Fong Liang, Shi Dudao, and Li Daokong were all new sages. They weren't polite to each other, and did not need to be polite. Looking at his three pawns, Hanju didn't say anything. Chapter 656 Divine Lord Peacock. Chapter 656 Divine Lord Peacock. Prepare for battle. This time our target is the netherworld. We can't let the Calamity race barge in. At that time, the order of reincarnation will be chaotic. It won't be as easy to comfort the immortal world as breaking through, Sect Master Tianju said, then pulled the topic back to the Calamity race. He looked at the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate immediately said, "I've already cut ties with the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. If the Heavenly Dao loses, I definitely won't survive. Don't worry, I'll definitely support you with all my might." He was surprised. Why didn't Sect Master Tianju target the other sages first? Weren't they close friends? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du added, "We're already united. Don't worry about each other. I suggest that the Heavenly Dao sect head to the netherworld first. Chan School, Jie School, Human School and Hidden Sect will guard the immortal world and the heavens first. I suspect that the Calamity race is only the first step. Those existences are plotting. How can we be their match? They won't put all their pawns on the table immediately." The sages nodded. Nua's escape was enough to make them not dare to underestimate her. Fong Liang had no objections. "I'll arrange it immediately." He then sent a voice transmission to the Divine General telling him to mobilize the Heavenly Dao sect disciples. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Emperor Shao and asked, "How's the takeover of the devil race?" Emperor Shao replied, "They're already on a scale and can enter the war at any time. This netherworld defense battle can test them." The devils were scattered in the Heavenly Dao, the Little Heavenly Dao, the depths of the chaos and so on. They were virtually the most widely distributed race. Even in the ancient Desolate, they suppressed the devil ancestor and the primordial devil race. Emperor Shao had never had any authority in the Heavenly Dao before. It was mainly because he did not have a sect he controlled, and the devils had been suppressed. Now was the chance for the devils to rise. Once they obtained the Heavenly Dao merit, and with the operation of Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, the devils would make a comeback sooner or later. Among the sages, other than Li Daokong and Shi Dudao, They already had their own forces. Even Heavenly Venerate Wufa's Wufa sect was very large in scale, and not much inferior to the other sage sects. Hanju listened to Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's arrangements, and didn't interrupt. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du clearly took care of the hidden sect. The other sages didn't dare to have any objections. After all, the hidden sect didn't enjoy the providence of the heavenly Tao, and Hanju had repeatedly protected the heavenly Tao. He should give them face. Moreover, half of the current sages were Hanju's spies. Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Qiushilai, and Sect Master Tianju had already been enslaved by the primordial heavenly prison. Fang Liang and Li Daokong had also left the hidden sect, and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du had a personal relationship with Hanju. Only Shi Du Dao, the south extreme Heavenly Venerate, and Emperor Shao were left. Shi Du Dao was Hanju's spy as well. The south extreme Heavenly Venerate was a close friend of Sect Master Tianju. In other words, the only person who could refute Hanju now was Emperor Shao. It was difficult to do anything alone. It had to be said that this feeling was quite good. After discussing the battle plan, the sages dispersed. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stopped Hanju. Fellow Taoist Han, you have to help if we encounter a freedom sage this time. After all, the ancestor is not here, he said meaningfully. Hanju asked, will a great Tao sage participate in this attack? No. My master said that all the great Tao sages in the deity realm of the ruins of End will go to the ancient desolate to suppress it. This is a consensus. No great Tao sage will dare to be absent. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's words caused Hanju to sigh. Without a great Tao sage, how dare they attack? Would they come and be defeated one by one? Hanju thought about it again. From the point of view of the deity realm of the ruins of End, how could he believe that he was invincible? Presumably, the freedom sage sent this time was much stronger than the dark sage king. He might even be in existence infinitely close to the great Tao sage realm. Hanju said, I'll deal with them if I can. If I can't, I'll stay in the heavenly Tao. At most, I'll waste their time and wait for the ancestor to return. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said meaningfully, your Tao field is in the heavenly Tao. How did you let yourself be in the heavenly Tao? Can you also attack in the heavenly Tao? You're thinking too much. If that was really the case, I would have long destroyed the flame race. I only used a secret technique to carve out a space in the heavenly Tao and borrow its protection. I can't walk the immortal world with my true body. Hanju didn't fall for it. This fellow wanted to force him to work hard. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, that's true. After all, even the Tao ancestor can't move in the immortal world. The two of them chatted for a while more before Hanju left. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du stared in the direction Hanju left, his eyes flickering. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju began to deduce the future. In this calamity, who is the strongest enemy the heavenly Tao faces? Hanju asked in his mind. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Divine Lord Peacock, perfected freedom sage, immeasurable emperor, demon saint, great Tao mystical power inheritor. He was indeed a perfected freedom sage. Hanju was not afraid. He was now at the mid-stage of the freedom primordial chaos realm, and was confident in defeating someone in the perfected realm. However, the prerequisite for him to make a move was that he could insta-kill Divine Lord Peacock. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous. Hanju didn't believe that all the great Tao sages were focused on dealing with the ancient desolate. Even if they sent a clone, it was still extremely dangerous for him. Continue cultivating. Hanju closed his eyes and strove to reach the late stage of the freedom primordial chaos realm as soon as possible. In the later stages, he wouldn't be far from perfection. At the perfected realm, he was only a step away from becoming a great Tao sage. In that case, he would break through soon. In the dark forbidden zone, boundless mist filled the air. Countless living beings were hidden in the mist. Their postures were different. All of them were ugly, like ancient ferocious beasts. 9 huge beasts that looked like ferocious tigers were wrapped in chains. At the other end of the chains was a huge and majestic city. It was black and sinister like a turtle shell. On the city's highest building stood dozens of transformed figures. The leader was a woman dressed in black armor and a dragon bone crown. Her facial features were handsome, but her left face was covered in black scales, making her look sinister. The black-armored woman stared ahead and asked, "When will the Divine Lord arrive?" A black-robed man beside him said in a low voice, "He's already on the way. He's tied down by the heavenly court of the dark forbidden zone. He'll probably take some time." The black-armored woman frowned. At this moment, a ball of black smoke appeared beside her. A figure came out from it. Patriarch, he has already reincarnated into the 6 paths of reincarnation. He can attack at any time. The woman in black armor fell into deep thought. After a long while, activate the yin-yang array formation and open the barrier tunnel to the heavenly Tao's netherworld. Once it's open, the entire race will rush in and occupy the netherworld as soon as possible. Without my orders, you are not allowed to invade the world of the living, the woman in black armor ordered. The mighty figures of the calamity race behind her agreed in unison. Soon, the roars of ferocious beasts sounded in the boundless mist, as if the horn of war had sounded. Netherworld. At the end of the yellow spring, countless immortals and ghosts stood on both sides of the yellow spring and floated in the air. Shining with divine light, the heavenly god general suddenly frowned. He saw fluctuations in the darkness at the end of the yellow spring. It was space. Boom! Space shattered, and a terrifying red pillar of light stirred up waves in the yellow spring and rushed into the depths of the netherworld. The heavenly god general immediately attacked, using his powerful body to block the red pillar of light. A terrifying aura overflowed from the spatial hole. The first to charge was a 10,000-foot-tall terrifying giant. It seemed to be made of meat, and it had a terrifying aura. Chapter 657 I Value You the Most. Chapter 657 I Value You the Most. Roar. The 10,000-foot-tall giant roared hoarsely, like a ferocious beast that had broken out of its cage. It exuded a violent and savage aura. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. The heavenly god general's eyelids twitched. He shouted, "Fight!" Thousands of heavenly troops used their mystical powers one after another. The spatial hole behind the 10,000-foot-tall giant quickly expanded. Countless living beings of the calamity race were like a school of carps crossing the river as they attacked without care. A huge battle quickly erupted. The surging waves of the yellow spring couldn't calm down for a long time. The calamity race directly sent 13 pseudo-sages as the vanguard, with hundreds of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals behind them. Their momentum was huge, even stronger than the previous flame race. However, this time the heavenly Tao was long prepared. The cultivators of the heavenly race, the heavenly Tao sect, and the netherworld entered the war. The news quickly spread to the immortal world. The mighty figures ranked ahead of the Providence Board rushed to the netherworld's 9 springs. Not all the mighty figures in the immortal world belonged to sage sects. Most of them had their own factions and ambitions. In the previous battle with the flame race, all the living beings who had participated and survived had obtained merit. This made the mighty figures concerned. It was not only to protect the heavenly Tao, but also to fight for merit. After the flame race, another race attacked from the chaos. It's called the calamity race. The location of this battle is the netherworld. I hope that all cultivators will go and fight, protect the heavenly Tao, and protect the order of reincarnation. The heavenly Tao is becoming stronger. An unprecedented huge change is happening. In the future, there will be more than 9 sages in the heavenly Tao. There will even be existences that surpass the sages. We heavenly Tao living beings should be united. This will not be the last calamity. It will also be the opportunity for the heavenly Tao to rise. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice resounded through the myriad worlds, causing an uproar. To sages, this calamity came quickly. However, to all living beings, the calamity of the flame race was already a legend. It was extremely ancient. However, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's words were filled with bewitchment, painting a magnificent scene of an epic era for all living beings. Hanju sighed. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was indeed capable of fooling people. He didn't mind it and continued cultivating. This 1,000-year seclusion was only halfway done. He had to continue. If the sky collapsed, the sages would hold it up. He had no need to worry. He didn't want to be a nanny. Time passed quickly. Soon 1,000 years passed. Hanju's cultivation improved again. He opened his eyes and looked. The netherworld was already completely chaotic. Hundreds of years of battle had sacrificed countless cultivators. The Calamity race was indeed powerful. Compared to the Flame race, not only were they more powerful, but their mid-level combatant strength was also abundant. The Heavenly Tao had always been defeated, and the Yama Hall had already been occupied by the Calamity race. The current netherworld could be said to be the back garden of the Calamity race. Strangely, the Calamity race did not further invade the mortal world and the immortal world. The sage sects were still constantly sending disciples to attack the netherworld. During the Calamity, countless geniuses also appeared. Hanju saw that Empress Hutu, Su Qi, Yang Tiandong, and the other leaders of the netherworld were all imprisoned. This prison was located at the bottom of the Yellow Spring and was guarded by millions of living beings from the Calamity race. There was even a pseudo-sage among them. It could be said to be extremely tight. Outside the netherworld, in front of the spatial hole, was a Calamity race city. An extremely powerful aura could be sensed from inside. Divine Lord Peacock. It was obvious that the Calamity race was different from the Flame race. The Flame race was completely a pawn, and only knew how to charge. Why did the Calamity race have their own plans? Hanju couldn't figure it out, and couldn't be bothered to use the derivation function to ask. He discovered that in just a few hundred years, dozens of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals and a pseudo-sage had appeared in the Heavenly Tao. However, the cycle of reincarnation was controlled, causing the Heavenly Tao to be filled with wandering ghosts. Hanju said, "Come in." Outside the Taoist temple, Li Xian'ao had been waiting for several years. He entered and knelt down to Hanju. "Sect Master, the battle in the netherworld has been going on for hundreds of years. The Heavenly Tao is weak. Should the hidden sect make a move?" Li Xian'ao asked. He felt that this was a good opportunity. Most of the disciples in the hidden sect had already reached their limits. They couldn't improve by cultivating alone. The Heavenly Tao merit could allow them to advance to another level. Hanju smiled. Not yet. The Calamity race was different from the Flame race. They were even stronger. Hanju didn't want the hidden sect to sacrifice themselves in vain. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du wasn't in a hurry, so why would Hanju be in a hurry? Li Xian'ao could only offer his opinion. As long as Hanju did not agree, he couldn't force him. "Call Tao Sovereign over," Hanju instructed. Li Xian'ao immediately left. Not long after Tao Sovereign arrived. He knelt in front of him. Hanju asked, "When will you become a pseudo-sage?" Tao Sovereign had already reached the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal realm, but he couldn't become a pseudo-sage. Logically speaking, with his chaotic physique and Hanju's great Tao of extreme origin, it shouldn't be difficult for him to become a pseudo-sage. Tao Sovereign hesitated and then said, "Master, it might be related to my Tao heart. I understand myself. I love fame. I've been in seclusion in the hidden sect, and always want to go out and adventure." Hanju didn't reply. Tao Sovereign was uneasy. Hanju silently deduced. So the reason why Li Xian'ao came to propose was that Tao Sovereign begged him. How cunning. Hanju was even more satisfied with Li Xian'ao. Even if his suggestion was rejected, he didn't sell Tao Sovereign to save his image. Hanju said, "Tao Sovereign, do you know who I value the most?" Tao Sovereign said carefully, "Guan Bubi?" Tao Sovereign felt the greatest pressure from this junior brother. He used to have the strongest potential, but the addition of Guan Bubi had lost him his title. This was also the reason why he urgently wanted to go out. "No, it's you. It's always been you." Hanju rejected firmly. Tao Sovereign trembled. Hanju said, "Since you want to go out, I'll support you. However, other than becoming a pseudo-sage, you have to make a name for yourself. I, Hanju, either don't fight or emerge at the top. If you fight, you have to be spectacular and dazzling like a bright sun. Tao Sovereign, I hope you can be as impressive as Li Daokong in the previous Calamity." Tao Sovereign's blood boiled when he heard that, and he immediately promised. That day, Tao Sovereign left the 100-Peak Immortal River and headed to the Netherworld to participate in the battle. The reason why he released Tao Sovereign was first, to let him break through, and second, to give Heavenly Venerate Xian Du an explanation, proving that the hidden sect wasn't just watching the show. Hanju's gaze landed outside the netherworld. Divine Lord Peacock's aura was indeed very strong, so powerful that he wasn't confident in insta-killing him. In that case, he could only do what he could as a world savior. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing Divine Lord Peacock. After a while, Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. What happened? He couldn't curse Divine Lord Peacock. Hanju tried a few more times, and the curse failed. Something was wrong. I want to know why I can't curse Divine Lord Peacock. Hanju used the derivation function. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So expensive. Could the existence be stronger than Ancestor Shitian? Continue. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Karma bead, Great Tao Supreme Treasure. It can isolate all karma. It is formed by the soul of a chaotic fiend celestial. Chapter 658 Challenge the Dark Forbidden Lord. Chapter 658 Challenge the Dark Forbidden Lord. Karma bead, Great Tao Supreme Treasure. Hanju was enlightened. No wonder the deity realm of the ruins of N still dared to invade the heavenly Tao after the Dark Forbidden Lord attacked. So he was prepared. Even the chaotic deity, or Kundi, didn't have such a supreme treasure. How could Divine Lord Peacock obtain it? Does this fellow have a stronger backing? Hanju continued to derive. 160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning, Great Tao Sage, Immeasurable Emperor, founder of the Chan School. Because you stopped the Dark Sage King from destroying the Heavenly Tao, he has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 2 stars. It was him. Hanju frowned and was still very puzzled. The karma bead was even more valuable than the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. Would he be willing to give this treasure to the Divine Lord Peacock? The karma bead was probably Divine Lord Peacock's Dharma treasure. To be able to control such a Dharma treasure and not be fought over by the great Tao sages, Divine Lord Peacock was a talent. Hanju wanted to test him. He directly used the Dark Nightmare and faced Divine Lord Peacock in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was above the yellow spring. The two of them floated in the air. Divine Lord Peacock wore a gorgeous embroidered robe and a 7-colored feather wind. He had a handsome face, and his crown was embedded with the head of a peacock. He was handsome and domineering, especially his eyes. They were very sharp and cold. He stared at Hanju and asked, "Who are you? What a mystical power. You actually pulled me into the dream directly, and I didn't sense anything." Hanju asked, "You're also impressive. You have a supreme treasure that can block curses." Divine Lord Peacock narrowed his eyes and exclaimed, "Dark Forbidden Lord." Hanju didn't deny it. He wanted to show his cards. He had read Divine Lord Peacock's information and did not know the word Chan School. In addition, he had a supreme treasure that even the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning did not have. He might have only been invited. "I'm very interested in you. You can even curse the chaotic deity to death. Your appearance has broken the long-standing stability of the chaos. Come out and fight me." Divine Lord Peacock said with a burning gaze. Hanju teased, "Are you the chaotic deity's match?" "Yes," he lost. "Then, how dare you challenge me? I like to challenge experts." Divine Lord Peacock's eyes burned as his powerful aura erupted, causing the dream to twist violently. Hanju asked, "Why are you working for the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning?" Divine Lord Peacock said, "I'm not working for him. I'm only here to add insult to injury to the Heavenly Tao." To add insult to injury? Hanju didn't expect him to confess so easily. Divine Lord Peacock smiled mockingly and said, "The living beings of the chaos are all from the Heavenly Tao. I'm the same. However, after the Tao ancestor attained the Tao, he ruled over the Heavenly Tao and sage positions alone. All the sages were his disciples. The sages in the future are also inheritors of the Tao sect. Even if all living beings have outstanding potential and monstrous providence, they are still suppressed by the Tao ancestor. After the Tao ancestor fused with the Tao, he became equivalent to the Heavenly Tao. He used the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity to expel us pseudo-sages from the heavenly Tao, and we struggled to survive in the chaos. He controlled the heavenly Tao like this, and made it impossible for it to escape the Tao sect's hands. As time passed, the sages became dissatisfied. Although we are grateful for his teaching, there's no need for us to serve him forever, right? The reason why I want to destroy the heavenly Tao now is to create a new heavenly Tao. The heavenly Lord of primordial beginning convinced me, so I came. I know the reason he came to me is that I'm not afraid of curses. Divine Lord Peacock stared at him, his eyes becoming more and more excited, and even a little fanatical. Hanju couldn't stand this gaze. This fellow was too confident. Divine Lord Peacock's words allowed Hanju to understand the Tao ancestor from another perspective. It had to be said that the Tao ancestor was indeed a little domineering. If Hanju was one of those sages, and was forever inferior to the Tao ancestor, he wouldn't be able to take it. Hanju thought of the hidden sect. The Tao ancestor's betrayal was worth being wary of. Fortunately, the hidden sect did not have any territory or benefits for the disciples to fight for. Compared to the Tao ancestor, Hanju's desire for power was very low. He rarely let his disciples help him, and wouldn't restrict their development. Divine Lord Peacock snorted. Dark Forbidden Lord, come. Fight me. I want to see how strong you are. The difference in cultivation level between us is too great. You can't be my match. You're not even worth me showing my face. In that case, why did you visit me in my dreams? Divine Lord Peacock mocked. Hanju asked, what are you pursuing? He had a great Tao purple chi in his hand, and could even transform a person into a chaotic fiend celestial. This was his topic of conversation. Divine Lord Peacock smiled. You want to subdue me? Is it impossible? There are many people who want to subdue me. Back then, the Tao ancestor also wanted to take me in, but I rejected him. It's precisely because of this that I'll never have the chance to attain the great Tao. What if I can let you attain the great Tao? While Divine Lord Peacock was still mocking, his words stunned him. Hanju wasn't in a hurry and waited patiently. He couldn't help but check Divine Lord Peacock's information again. Divine Lord Peacock, perfected freedom sage, immeasurable emperor, demon saint, great Tao mystical power inheritor, great Tao mystical power inheritor. Could he be the Kong Xian of the investiture of the gods? Is this mystical power the five-colored divine light? In the investiture of the gods, Kong Xian's five-colored divine light could even defeat sages. Defeat me first. I can prove my potential to you. The surrounding dream shattered like a mirror. He forcefully broke through the dream realm. In the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. Divine Lord Peacock has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 3 stars. Hanju originally thought that Divine Lord Peacock was angry, but he didn't expect him to have a favorable impression of him. Was this arrogance? Hanju didn't immediately go out to challenge Divine Lord Peacock. That would expose his relationship with the Dark Forbidden Lord. However, he could also tell from the dream that Divine Lord Peacock and the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning were not completely tied together. He continued cultivating. When he broke through to the late stage of the Freedom Primordial Chaos, Hanju felt that he should be able to insta-kill Divine Lord Peacock. Hanju still had this confidence. You, Divine Lord Peacock, claim to have unparalleled potential. But are you comparable to the primordial fiend celestial? Dark Forbidden Zone. Han Tuo and Etion quickly traveled with tens of thousands of heavenly court immortals. Their current selves had already been reborn. The spirit of an expert could be seen with the naked eye. They wore armor, and their capes fluttered, looking majestic. Han Tuo's eyes sharpened as he said, We're getting closer and closer to the heavenly Tao. Prepare for battle at any time. Kill them whenever you see them. The tens of thousands of heavenly court immortals acknowledged softly. These immortals were all recruited by the evil heavenly emperor from the various little heavenly Tao. Their cultivation levels were at least Grand Unity True Immortal, and they had extremely strong foundations. Han Tuo and Etion were even experts who dominated the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Etion suddenly smiled and said, It's been a long time since we returned to the heavenly Tao. If we succeed, shouldn't the heavenly Tao sages thank us? Han Tuo shook his head. You're thinking too much. Our heavenly court is only restraining the calamity race, and won't be of much use. Etienne chuckled. It's fine. There's a mighty figure behind us. I wonder where His Majesty persuaded him to come. TSK, that aura is really terrifying. Chapter 659 Sacred True Marshal, Heavenly Calamity Emperor. Chapter 659 Sacred True Marshal, Heavenly Calamity Emperor. Don't talk about that, Senior. Han Tua frowned and instructed. Etienne was always rude. If he offended that mighty figure, he couldn't protect him. Even the evil Heavenly Emperor had to be polite to that mighty figure, and did not dare to offend him. Etienne curled his lips, and he did not continue. He only sighed. The Heavenly Court army continued forward. At the same time, outside the Netherworld in the city of the Calamity Race, Divine Lord Peacock sat in the quiet palace. Sensing something, he suddenly opened his eyes. A gust of wind blew towards him. The door was clearly closed, and there were no windows. Divine Lord Peacock's eyes narrowed as an invisible aura dispersed the strange wind in front of him. I was wondering who it was. So it's you, Sacred True Marshal. What? You're also here to attack the Heavenly Tao? Divine Lord Peacock mocked. With that said, a figure appeared in front of him. The two of them remained 10 steps apart. Sacred True Marshal wore a white robe. His hair was white like a galaxy waterfall and scattered down his shoulders. He had a handsome face and a refined temperament. Compared to Divine Lord Peacock, he gave off a refreshing feeling without any pressure. Sacred True Marshal smiled. No, I'm here to stop you. You. Divine Lord Peacock stood up as 5-colored light lit up behind him. Sacred True Marshal said, Divine Lord, why? We shouldn't participate in the schemes of the great Tao sages. Chess is necessary for the great Tao sages, but also not necessary. Do you understand? Divine Lord Peacock said disdainfully. Then who are you here for? Which great Tao sage? Sacred True Marshal shook his head. I'm here for you. In this chaos, the only cultivator I admire is you. I don't want you to go deep into the mud. Recently, the Heavenly Court's evil Heavenly Emperor invited me to join the Heavenly Court. He told me his plan. I think it's very good. I hope you can join us. Heavenly Court. Divine Lord Peacock narrowed his eyes. Sacred True Marshal continued. The evil Heavenly Emperor is different from the previous Heavenly Emperor. He has already escaped the great Tao sage's control. His Heavenly Court has obtained the recognition of the inauspicious evil. Sooner or later, he will unite the dark forbidden zone. Shut up. You think you can persuade me? Divine Lord Peacock suddenly waved his sleeve, and a 5-colored divine light shot out, sweeping Sacred True Marshal away. Immediately after, Divine Lord Peacock vanished from the hall. Inside the 100-peak immortal river, Han Ju, who was cultivating, sensed 2 extremely strong battle auras. He opened his eyes and saw Divine Lord Peacock fighting a white-robed man. The two of them were both freedom sages. In order to not affect the calamity race, they entered a deeper space to fight. Only those at the Freedom Realm could spy on them. Space seemed to not exist, but it actually existed. It was also divided into many levels. Even sages might not be able to completely comprehend the rules of space. Han Ju couldn't help but become curious when he saw that the two of them were on par. Who is this? Invited by Heavenly Venerate Xiandu? Han Ju watched for a while and felt that something was wrong. These two were sparring, right? The battle was too gentle. Han Ju lost interest and continued his seclusion. He closed his eyes and opened them again. Another 1,000 years passed. Han Ju stood up and twisted his waist while checking his emails. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by the living beings of the Calamity Race, X79322005. Your son Han Tua was attacked by the living beings of the Calamity Race, X69822233. Your disciple Yang Tiandong was ravaged by a mysterious array formation and was severely injured. Your good friend Empress Hutu was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Her Tao heart was damaged. Your good friend South Extreme Heavenly Venerate was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Pan Exan has obtained Panga's will. His bloodline has transformed, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your descendant Han Yu was attacked by the living beings of the Calamity race. X80921. Your disciple Ji Xianxian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. How tragic. Another 1,000 years passed. The Calamity race still occupied the netherworld. The heavenly Tao living beings came one after another, but they couldn't drive the Calamity race out. Now the Jie school, the Chan school, the human school, the Buddhist sect, the Holy Mother sect, and so on were all constantly sending disciples to reinforce the netherworld. The sages had never attacked. They couldn't make a move in the heavenly Tao, but there was Divine Lord Peacock outside the heavenly Tao. They were not his match. Hanju noticed that Pan Xan had obtained Panga's will. TSK, this Pan surname was truly suitable. He checked his interpersonal relationships. Pan Xan's cultivation had already reached the perfected pseudosage realm. It increased very quickly. He checked Dao's sovereign's profile picture again. This kid did not let him down. Early stage pseudosage realm. He finally broke through. Hanju smiled in satisfaction. He looked outside the netherworld again. Divine Lord Peacock and the other freedom sage had already disappeared. This was a good opportunity. Hanju's sage sense swept over and discovered that the strongest person in the Calamity race was only a perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal. He was equivalent to a perfected heavenly Tao sage. I'm going out to capture the sage of the Calamity race this time with all my might. I'll return after capturing him. Is my life in danger? Hanju used the derivation function. The more this was the case, the more cautious he had to be. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Seeing these words, Hanju immediately disappeared from the Taoist temple. In the city, Patriarch Heavenly Calamity Emperor was cultivating in his palace. She had the image of a woman and wore black armor. Her bearing was extraordinary. Like the other members of the Calamity race, she exuded a cold and sinister aura. Heavenly Calamity Emperor suddenly sensed something and opened his eyes. Almost instantly, a figure shining with divine light appeared behind her. A hand landed on her shoulder, making her unable to move. Imprisonment Great Tao. It was Hanju. He grabbed Heavenly Calamity Emperor and left, returning to his Taoist temple. Heavenly Calamity Emperor widened her eyes and looked at him in shock. Impossible. Hanju used the great Tao of traversal to come behind her, making her unable to react in time. He then used the great Tao of imprisonment to suppress her, and now, he used the great Tao of void to disperse her dermic powers. Heavenly Calamity Emperor was helpless, and could only panic. Who are you? Heavenly Calamity Emperor asked in a low voice. She was at the perfected primordial chaos, zenith heaven golden immortal realm, and was only a step away from the freedom realm. Hanju threw her into the primordial heavenly prison without saying anything. Heavenly Calamity Emperor asked, "Are you the freedom sage who killed the dark sage king?" Hanju remained silent. I didn't expect you to be so strong. You're probably not much different from the Divine Lord. Why didn't you attack earlier? When the Divine Lord returns, he will definitely be able to trace my aura. Why are you so obsessed with the heavenly Tao? I can sense that your heavenly Tao providence is very weak, and can't be compared to the other heavenly Tao sages. Heavenly Calamity Emperor kept asking questions. Hanju was impatient. He used the power of the bewitching fiend Celestial to pull the Heavenly Calamity Emperor into an endless illusion. The Tao field immediately quietened down. Next, Hanju waited for the primordial heavenly prison to succeed. The news of Heavenly Calamity Emperor's disappearance did not spread. She usually cultivated in seclusion, and the living beings in the clan did not dare to disturb her. 300 years later, Divine Lord Peacock returned discovering that Heavenly Calamity Emperor's aura had vanished. He immediately came to her cultivation palace. Chapter 660 The Calamity Race's Plot. Chapter 660 The Calamity Race's Plot. In the empty and quiet hall, Divine Lord Peacock frowned and looked around. His eyes reflected a strange light. In his vision, everything that had happened in the palace kept replaying in front of him. Soon, he saw Hanju capture Heavenly Calamity Emperor. He frowned. Too fast. The other party's speed was not inferior to his. He could also directly capture Heavenly Calamity Emperor, but that would require his full strength. Divine Lord Peacock did not stay any longer and vanished. Sometime later, the Calamity race finally discovered that Heavenly Calamity Emperor had disappeared. However, the upper echelons controlled the news. The current Calamity race could no longer retreat, let alone when they had occupied the Netherworld. There was no need to retreat. The Calamity race controlled the news, but they couldn't hide it from the sages. Outside the 33rd heaven, Universal Hall, the sages gathered. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "The leader of the Calamity race, Heavenly Calamity Emperor, has disappeared. We have to be wary of this." Feng Liang frowned. Divine Lord Peacock is still around, and the Calamity race has not descended into chaos. Could it be that Heavenly Calamity Emperor has gone to seek help? Qiu Shilai shook his head. Now that the Calamity race has the upper hand, why would they need helpers? The Calamity race wants to dominate the immortal world. The other sages also discussed. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu had a headache. The Calamity race was really too strong. There was even a freedom sage guarding outside. They could only worry outside the 33rd heaven. Outside the 33rd heaven was the top level of the Heavenly Tao. It was a space exclusive to sages. Here, they could still enjoy the Heavenly Tao's protection. The sages were afraid of Divine Lord Peacock, and could only hide here. They were very aggrieved. Let's wait and see. At least the situation is stable, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said. Qiu Shilai said, "This battle has stimulated many geniuses. The new generation of cultivators is beginning to gradually ascend the stage. The Heavenly Tao in the future will definitely be powerful." The other sages nodded. Although the Heavenly Tao had suffered heavy losses, countless experts had also appeared. This was also the reason why they were not in a hurry. Sherdudao snorted. "I'm just afraid that we won't be able to survive until then. The Calamity race can clearly invade the Yang realm, but they didn't. It's obvious that there's a huge conspiracy, but we don't even know what they want to do." Universal Hall fell silent again. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu was also thinking, what does the Calamity race want? It took an extremely long time to enslave a freedom sage. 1,000 years passed, but he still did not succeed. During this period of time, Hanju didn't dare to cultivate, afraid that the Heavenly Calamity Emperor would find a chance to attack him. Although the difference in cultivation between them was great, he had to be cautious. He could reach this point because he was cautious. Hanju observed the situation in the Netherworld and waited patiently. After Heavenly Calamity Emperor disappeared, the Calamity race was as usual. They couldn't build in the Netherworld, and kept controlling the cycle of reincarnation. Although there was a continuous stream of Heavenly Tao lifeforms coming to stop them, the overall situation couldn't stop the Calamity race. During this period of time, many Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, and even pseudo-sages appeared in the Heavenly Tao. Tao Sovereign wasn't the most glorious pseudo-sage. There were a few others whose battle achievements were even more ferocious than Tao Sovereign. Among them were the Divine Might Buddha of the Buddhist sect, the sect master of the Jie school, Huang Zuantian, the Divine Palace's Jing Tiangong, and other familiar faces. Divine Lord Peacock did not move. Compared to the beginning of the war, it had been much quieter recently. Hanju was secretly pleased. "I'll give you a surprise when I enslave the Calamity race." The Calamity race was called the strongest race in the deity realm of the ruins of End. It would be a pity to destroy them. It was better to accept them and make them the guardians of the Heavenly Tao. Hanju had witnessed the battles over the years. The Calamity race's combat talent was indeed powerful. Their average level was higher than the Heavenly Tao lifeforms. Furthermore, after he captured Heavenly Calamity Emperor, he did not attract any hatred notifications from the mighty figures. This meant that Heavenly Calamity Emperor had no stronger backer. Otherwise, he would directly hate Hanju like Qiu Shilai. Hanju had already thought of the arrangements for the Calamity race. He was waiting for the enslavement to succeed. Immortal world, a human city. Halfway up the mountain, a cloth-robed youth with messy hair faced the sun. His robes fluttered as he absorbed the Eastern Emergence purple chi. The cloth-robed youth suddenly opened his eyes. His ordinary facial features suddenly looked sinister as black scales appeared on his face. A voice entered his ears. "Your Highness, what are you waiting for? Are you going to let His Majesty down?" The cloth-robed youth's expression returned to normal. "I don't want to join the sage sect. My potential is enough to grow on my own." "No. You have to join. This is His Majesty's order." "I don't want to flatter you. Why won't you give me time? I can rely on myself to reach the peak of cultivation." The mysterious voice was silent. The cloth-robed youth closed his eyes and continued cultivating. "Are you really unwilling?" "Yes, I want to rely on myself." "Don't worry, I won't forget my race." Hee. Another 400 years passed. Primordial Heavenly Prison has successfully enslaved the target. Heavenly Calamity Emperor has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability max. Hanju looked at the 2 lines of words that finally appeared in front of him and heaved a sigh of relief. He checked Heavenly Calamity Emperor's profile picture. Heavenly Calamity Emperor. Perfected Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Leader of the Calamity Race. Immeasurable Emperor Connate Life Form. Favorability towards you is maxed. At this realm, if he took another step forward, he would reach the Freedom Realm. Hanju looked at the Heavenly Calamity Emperor and suddenly felt that this woman was not bad-looking. Heavenly Calamity Emperor opened her eyes and knelt in front of Hanju respectfully, calling him master. Hanju asked, "Who did you listen to before?" Heavenly Calamity Emperor said, "I didn't listen to anyone. I just had an agreement with the great Tao sage." "Why didn't you attack the living world?" "I'm afraid there will be an accident. After all, the flame race has all perished there. I sent my son to the cycle of reincarnation to be reincarnated as a living being of the heavenly Tao. In the future, when the Calamity race dominates the netherworld, we will discuss with the sages and promote my son to a sage. They will let the Calamity race completely stabilize ourselves in the heavenly Tao until we control it alone." Hanju was a little surprised that Heavenly Calamity Emperor had such selfish motives. "Don't you want to destroy the heavenly Tao?" "That's just what the great Tao sage thinks. Destroying the heavenly Tao is not beneficial to the Calamity race. I don't want to be a pawn for the great Tao sage for nothing. If I can control the heavenly Tao alone, I will have the right to challenge the great Tao sage. The Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning said that he would give me a chance to attain the great Tao. But I don't believe it. They're too arrogant. Everything is just empty talk." Heavenly Calamity Emperor looked disdainful. It had to be said that from Heavenly Calamity Emperor's point of view, this was a very good plan. Unfortunately, she met Hanju. Hanju instructed, "You can talk to Heavenly Venerate Xian. The netherworld is divided into half, and the Calamity race will stay there. As for the authority of reincarnation, we'll talk about it in the future." Heavenly Calamity Emperor immediately agreed. Hanju waved his hand and sent her out of the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Calamity Emperor sent a voice transmission to Heavenly Venerate Xian. She couldn't enter the heavenly Tao and could only send a voice transmission. Upon hearing that Heavenly Calamity Emperor wanted to negotiate peace, Heavenly Venerate Xian subconsciously became vigilant. The Calamity race was in such a good state. Why did they have to negotiate? Heavenly Calamity Emperor returned to her palace and waited for Heavenly Venerate Xian to reply. As soon as she entered the hall, a figure appeared in front of her. It was an old Taoist with a dignified expression. Chapter 661 Fusion of the Heavenly Tao. Revival of the Tao Ancestor. Chapter 661 Fusion of the Heavenly Tao. Revival of the Tao Ancestor. Seeing the old Taoist in front, the Heavenly Calamity Emperor bowed slightly and said, "Greetings, Heavenly Lord." The old Taoist who appeared in the hall was the founder of the Chan school, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning, one of the personal disciples of the Tao Ancestor, one of the 3 pure ones of the Tao sect. The Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning stared at her expressionlessly and asked, "You've been with Hanju for so long. What did you say?" The Heavenly Calamity Emperor replied, "Just chatting." "Why did the Calamity race stop the attack in the netherworld?" "The Calamity race also needs to recuperate. We can't fight for long." "Really, if you don't believe me, You can send Chan school disciples to help. The Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning did not answer. The Heavenly Calamity Emperor mocked in her heart. Did he really think she was a stupid spear that he could use as he pleased? They fell silent. After a long time, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning seemed to see through the Heavenly Calamity Emperor. With that he vanished. This attack on the Heavenly Tao is an opportunity we gave the Calamity race. If you don't cherish it, we can also find other races. Your Calamity race is strong in the deity realm of the ruins of End, but in the chaos, you can't compare to the race created by the chaotic fiend celestials. I will always keep an eye on you. The Heavenly Calamity Emperor did not care about the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning's threat at all. She only had Hanju in her heart now, and was absolutely obedient to him. She wouldn't hesitate even if Hanju asked her to directly fight the great Tao sage. The Heavenly Calamity Emperor approached her mat and sat down. She began to cultivate, waiting for Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's reply. At the same time, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du gathered all the sages. Hanju also went. He had to speak up for the Heavenly Calamity Emperor, in case the sages did not believe him. In the Universal Hall, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du repeated Heavenly Calamity Emperor's words. The Calamity race wants to enter the Netherworld, and they want half of it. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate frowned with a furious expression. The other sages were also puzzled. Hanju said, the Calamity race might not want to be controlled by the great Tao sage, so they haven't attacked the world of the living. We can agree. After all, the Netherworld is already controlled by the Calamity race. From the battle situation, the Calamity race is retreating. Qiu Shilai immediately said, in that case you can agree and see how it goes. Heavenly Venerate Wufa said, fellow Taoist Han makes sense. Sect Master Tianju said, I agree. Li Daokong said, Sect Master is right. Shi Dudao scanned them thoughtfully. Emperor Shao narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du glanced at Hanju meaningfully. Hanju was indifferent and wasn't afraid of being suspected. In any case, the current Heavenly Tao was under his control. If Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was a smart person, he wouldn't expose him. In that case, I'll agree to her request first and see how the Calamity race performs later. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du pondered. The sages had no objections. The conversation ended. Hanju was about to leave when Feng Liang sent him a voice transmission. Grandmaster, can you come to my Heavenly Tao Palace for a talk? Hanju immediately entered the Heavenly Tao Palace and saw Feng Liang. The restrictions in the Heavenly Tao Palace were useless to him. Feng Liang's heart palpitated. How strong was Grandmaster now? Everyone knew that Hanju was a freedom sage, but all the sages knew that his speed of becoming stronger was extremely exaggerated. After so many years, he must be even stronger. Hanju stared at Feng Liang and waited for him to speak. Feng Liang asked, it's rare for you to take the initiative to speak. Could it be that the reason why Heavenly Calamity Emperor retreated is related to you? Hanju asked, is it very important? Feng Liang said, of course. Once the Calamity race is stationed in the Heavenly Tao, they will integrate sooner or later. The Heavenly Calamity Emperor can even use the providence of the Heavenly Tao of the Calamity race to become a Heavenly Tao sage. Hanju didn't reply. Feng Liang said, Grandmaster, I've already found the jade slip of creation with the help of the other sages. I'm preparing to fuse with the Tao and fuse with the Heavenly Tao spirit at the same time to prevent anything from happening. Hanju asked, what benefits are there to the Heavenly Tao after Tao integration? Unlike the Tao ancestors' Tao integration, I've decided to imitate Pengu and transform into the Heavenly Tao. I'll expand the Heavenly Tao domain and help the Heavenly Tao become stronger, Feng Liang said seriously. Hanju frowned. The Tao ancestor asked you to do this? No, it's my own decision. How do you know that what you're thinking wasn't given to you by the Tao ancestor? You've already transformed into the Tao ancestor and are about to fuse into the Heavenly Tao. No matter how I look at it, you're not benefiting. You're completely paving the way for the Tao ancestor. Hanju couldn't help but try to persuade him. Feng Liang's path was becoming more and more crooked. Although Feng Liang seemed to have betrayed the hidden sect, He had never schemed against Hanju or targeted the sect. He could only say that he had left the hidden sect in name and did not become enemies with it. Under such circumstances, Hanju still wanted to help him. Fang Liang was silent. Hanju left after saying, "Think about it carefully. What do you want to pursue? Do you only want to satisfy the Tao ancestors' will? Then what are you? Are you still Fang Liang?" Fang Liang frowned. Hanju's words touched his soul. He suddenly felt like he woke up. What was he doing? After returning to the 100-peak Immortal River, Hanju immediately used the derivation function. After Fang Liang completes Tao integration, what will happen to the heavenly Tao? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered the illusion. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered that he was outside the 33rd heaven. A dazzling light shone from above, illuminating the entire 33rd heaven. Hanju saw the sages standing in front of the universal hall and looking up. He looked up and saw a figure in the center of the dazzling light. Fang Liang. Fang Liang was undergoing Tao integration. A vast pressure descended. It was an aura that far exceeded the Freedom Sage realm. Hanju narrowed his eyes. He saw Fang Liang's figure changing. Something was wrong. "Greetings, Tao ancestor." The sages suddenly shouted in unison and knelt down with excited expressions. Hanju showed a frown. "During the time I was gone, the heavenly Tao was protected by you. You did well. I'm very glad." An ancient voice sounded. It was no longer Fang Liang's voice. "Tao ancestor. The true Tao ancestor. What happened? Was Fang Liang really a tool?" Hanju frowned even more. He couldn't deduce everything about the Tao ancestor. This time, he deduced that the Tao ancestor was only related to Fang Liang. It seemed that the Tao ancestor was not completely impossible to deduce. As long as he found an existence with great karma with him, he could deduce the Tao ancestor. But it was only his fragment in the karma. At this moment, a dazzling light suddenly expanded and enveloped the entire 33rd heaven. "Tao ancestor, what do you want?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du exclaimed in fear. Hanju turned around and discovered that the dermic powers of the sages were sucked out of their bodies. Then the high and mighty Tao ancestor appeared. "I want the heavenly Tao to occupy the entire chaos. I apologize, but from today onwards, the heavenly Tao will no longer have any sages." The Tao ancestor's voice was extremely calm without any emotion. The illusion ended. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Indeed, Fang Liang was a pawn that had been bewitched. It seemed that the Tao ancestor also had a method similar to the primordial heavenly prison. No, Hanju had finally turned the heavenly Tao into a harmonious situation. It couldn't be broken by the Tao ancestor. Hanju might not be safe in the heavenly Tao when the Tao ancestor was revived. Chapter 662 Peace of the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 662 Peace of the Heavenly Tao. No, I have to stop the Tao ancestor. Hanju's eyes were firm. Regardless of whether the Tao ancestor was sincere about the heavenly Tao, this fellow could actually absorb the dermic powers of all the sages. It was really terrifying. Hanju didn't want his dermic powers to be sucked away. He did not act immediately. After resting for a few days, he sent a voice transmission to Fang Liang and asked him to come back for a chat. Fang Liang had no objections and was moved into the Taoist temple by Hanju's dermic powers. Hanju waved his hand, and a mat for Fang Liang to meditate on appeared. Fang Liang sighed. "I haven't been back for a long time. I really miss it." Hanju directly used the power to confuse and imprison Fang Liang. Then, he began the absolute purification and primordial heavenly prison. Fang Liang closed his eyes as if he was asleep. Hanju sighed. "Fang Liang, oh Fang Liang, I've paved so many paths for you. If you insist on going down the wrong path, I have no choice but to forcefully correct you." Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating. Fang Liang's disappearance was not suspected by the sages. They even hoped that he would suddenly die. Several hundred years later, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice resounded through the world. "The battle between the heavenly Tao and the Calamity race will stop for the time being. The Calamity race will give up half of the netherworld and protect the heavenly Tao together with us. Boom! The myriad worlds and the immortal world were in an uproar. After fighting for so long, they had actually stopped. Furthermore, the Calamity race had taken the initiative to give up half the netherworld. News of the battle in the netherworld had always spread to the myriad worlds. Panic and tension had always enveloped the entire heavenly Tao. They never expected the sages to suddenly announce that the war would stop. It wasn't only the living beings of the heavenly Tao who were puzzled. The Calamity race was the same. The two sides had been fighting for a long time. The blood feud was very difficult to resolve. The conflict within the Calamity race had also completely erupted. Unlike the heavenly Tao, the Calamity race invaded with their entire race. Almost every living being had relatives and friends who died in the netherworld. They said they weren't going to fight anymore. How could they avenge themselves? All the higher-ups of the Calamity race went to visit the heavenly Calamity Emperor. Hundreds of generals gathered in the palace and stared at heavenly Calamity Emperor angrily. Heavenly Calamity Emperor was expressionless. You want to rebel? With that said, all the generals knelt down and said that they did not dare. An old man looked up and asked, Your Majesty, why did you suddenly make such a decision? Heavenly Calamity Emperor said, The Calamity race pursues the future, not being a knife for the great Tao sage. Don't worry, I won't harm the Calamity race. The Calamity race generals looked at each other, still dissatisfied. What kind of explanation was this? The Heavenly Calamity Emperor waved her hand, and the generals had no choice but to retreat. When only Heavenly Calamity Emperor was left in the hall, she said, How long more do you want to watch, Divine Lord? Divine Lord Peacock walked out of the darkness. He frowned and asked, What is this? I'm here to play with your Calamity race? He had come all the way here, and stayed for thousands of years. In the end, before he could even encounter the Dark Forbidden Lord, the Calamity race had already surrendered? The Heavenly Calamity Emperor said, Sorry, but do you really trust the great Tao sage? Divine Lord Peacock narrowed his eyes. Who subdued you? The Heavenly Calamity Emperor did not answer. Divine Lord Peacock was frustrated. No one would be happy that their plan had been disrupted. However, he didn't care to attack the Heavenly Calamity Emperor. The one who invited him was the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning, not the Heavenly Calamity Emperor. Divine Lord, actually, joining the Heavenly Tao is not impossible. The current Heavenly Tao is no longer the previous Heavenly Tao, the Heavenly Calamity Emperor said meaningfully. Divine Lord Peacock looked at her deeply before turning around and disappearing into the darkness. The Heavenly Calamity Emperor did not care, and closed her eyes to cultivate. If Divine Lord Peacock wanted to kill her, it would be useless even if she tried her best to guard against him. 1,400 years passed. Primordial Heavenly Prison has successfully enslaved the target. Feng Liang has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability. Max Hanju opened his eyes and looked at Feng Liang, who had also opened his eyes. He hurriedly knelt down and bowed respectfully like a servant. Seeing him like this, Hanju's heart ached. He didn't want to throw the people around him into the primordial heavenly prison, but Feng Liang had already become a demon and insisted on sacrificing himself for the Tao ancestor. Hanju asked, Are you still going to undergo Tao integration? I'll listen to Grandmaster's arrangements. Then don't do it. Yes. Looking at Feng Liang acting like a robot, Hanju sighed. However, he did not trigger the Tao ancestor's hatred notification. It seemed that the Tao ancestor did not keep tabs on Feng Liang. Perhaps the Tao ancestor was in danger, or he had many pawns like Feng Liang. Hanju asked, Did the Tao ancestor ask you to fuse with the Tao? Feng Liang shook his head and nodded. I'm not sure either. Now that I think about it, my desire to fuse with the Tao is very crazy. There's no motive or reason. Feng Liang had been alone since he was young. After becoming Hanju's disciple, although he had encountered many dangers, he had always survived. Throughout his life, he had been sad and happy, but not bitter and vengeful. The more Feng Liang thought about it, the more confused he became. What was wrong with him? He had a deep fear of the Tao ancestor. Unknowingly, he had become like this. Hanju said, Go back. Like before. Continue to protect the heavenly Tao. but don't undergo Tao integration. Don't tell anyone what happened between us during this period of time. Understood. Feng Liang stood up and bowed. Han Ju waved his sleeve and sent him out. After that he stretched. I'm saving the heavenly Tao in the sage's future again. Han Ju felt that he was so noble. He was saving everything behind the scenes. He looked at the myriad worlds of the heavenly Tao. After so many years, the battle had long ended. The calamity race, the heavenly race, and the ghost deities had divided their territory in the netherworld. Empress Hutu, Ji Xianxian, Yang Tiandong, and Su Qi had returned to their positions and were working hard to restore the order of reincarnation. Too many ghosts were wandering outside the netherworld. It was impossible to completely clean them up in a short period of time. In short, peace descended again. Han Ju suddenly thought of Divine Lord Peacock. This fellow was still in the city of the Calamity race and had no intention of leaving. The Calamity race had already surrendered. What else did this fellow want? Han Ju decided to visit Divine Lord Peacock in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was still above the yellow spring. Divine Lord Peacock opened his eyes. He was not surprised to see him. He asked, Dark Forbidden Lord, when are you going to attack me? Han Ju asked, why should I swing my saber at you? If I wanted to kill someone, I wouldn't have contacted them like this and directly attacked. Oh, then what do you mean? Join me and become my believer. I will lead you to an unprecedented peak. I think very highly of your potential and strength. I think so highly of you that I don't want to kill you. Under my guidance, I will let you surpass the chaotic deity or even the Tao ancestor. Han Ju spoke firmly, as if he was telling the truth. Divine Lord Peacock said disdainfully, you want to subdue me with nonsense? It's still the same thing. If you want me to be convinced, you have to defeat me. The difference in cultivation level is only a shackle in my opinion. It can be breached. Perhaps your cultivation level surpasses mine, but I might not lose. How pretentious. This fellow was definitely the most confident person he had ever met. Han Ju asked, then, do you mean that you are invincible in the same realm? Divine Lord Peacock said proudly, that's right. What if I send a disciple of the same realm as you to defeat you? Impossible. Chapter 663 Inheritance of Panga's Will. Chapter 663 Inheritance of Panga's Will. If you're really defeated, what should you do? Han Ju continued to force Divine Lord Peacock to face this question. Divine Lord Peacock flew into a rage out of humiliation. If that really happens, I'll submit to you and let you be my master. But that's impossible. I, Divine Lord Peacock, am invincible among my peers, even if I have to fight against many enemies alone. Oh, then I'll send more disciples. The agreement is as before. No, we agreed on a one-on-one fight. Divine Lord Peacock hurriedly changed his words. Although he was conceited, he was not stupid. Han Ju was so confident and definitely had sinister methods. How could he let himself fall into an unfair situation? Han Ju smiled. This fellow was interesting. Then don't leave. Wait for him to find you. How long? You can cultivate in seclusion first. You have nothing to do anyway. Divine Lord Peacock said impatiently. All right, I'll wait for you. He forcefully shattered the dream again. Han Ju opened his eyes and smiled. He still wanted to subdue Divine Lord Peacock, so he stabilized him. Han Ju opened the emails and checked his circle of friends. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your enemy Fuxician. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your enemy, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your enemy Karma Heaven. Your son Han Tua was attacked by a mysterious Tao Devil X840292. Your disciple Su Qi has absorbed the negative karma of the netherworld. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian was entangled by a mysterious misfortune. His lifespan has decreased by 300 billion years. The battle at the deity realm of the ruins of Ind had begun. Seeing Pan Xian being beaten, Han Ju was quite surprised. Being able to survive meant that Pan Xian was already very strong. He checked his profile picture. Pan Xian. Late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal, descendant of Pangu, one of the first living beings after creation. He has experienced the immeasurable calamity and was playing in the mortal world. Afraid of being discovered by the ancient master of calamity, he infiltrated the Sword Dao River. Because of your nature, he is interested in you. Current favorability. 3 stars late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. This leveling speed was too ridiculous. There was also the providence label of Panga's descendant. It was really impressive. He was only a primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal. How could he withstand the siege of a great Dao sage? Could it be that Panga's power was protecting Pan Xan? Hanju didn't spend his lifespan deducing, but continued to check his emails. Ancestor Shitian was entangled by bad luck and lost 300 billion years of his lifespan. It was fine. It was just a drizzle. Hanju didn't care much about lifespan, if it was just hundreds of millions now. An existence like Ancestor Shitian still had an endless lifespan, right? Perhaps this was the definition of immortality. The reason why he was immortal was that his lifespan had reached the upper limit. The concept of eternal life was vague. What was eternal life? Live on forever? How long was forever? Hanju thought about it and continued reading the emails. After he finished reading the emails, he immersed himself in cultivation again. Outside the 33rd heaven, Heavenly Dao Palace. Fong Liang sat on the lotus throne with a white-robed man kneeling in front of him. The white-robed man asked, "Master, when will you attempt Dao integration?" Fong Liang replied, "I won't do it." "Won't do it?" The white-robed man was stunned. In order to attain Dao integration, Fong Liang had arranged many things. As the sect master of the Heavenly Dao sect and Fong Liang's personal disciple, the white-robed man had been preparing all these years, waiting for Fong Liang to reach the Dao integration realm. But Fong Liang suddenly changed his mind? This was not the way of a sage. Fong Liang stared at his disciple, feeling helpless and afraid. Thinking back, he was terrified. He had almost sacrificed himself for the Dao ancestor. After going through the primordial heavenly prison, Fong Liang only eliminated the Dao ancestor's control over his thoughts. As for his absolute loyalty to Hanju, he was the most grateful to him and would never become enemies with him. So he didn't change much. Fong Liang said, "Let's not talk about the Dao integration for now. Send orders to the disciples of the Heavenly Dao sect to preach in the various new mortal worlds. Next, the Heavenly Dao sect will help all living beings of the Heavenly Dao become stronger. This is what the sages are seeking." Although he was puzzled, the white-robed man still agreed. Fong Liang closed his eyes, and the white-robed man bowed and left. 5 minutes later, a voice floated over. "Fellow Taoist Fong, can we talk?" Fong Liang opened his eyes and focused. The array formation of the Dao field closed, and Emperor Shao entered the hall. The array formation of the Dao field activated, blocking all sage sense and voices. Fong Liang waved his sleeve, and a mat appeared in front of him. Emperor Shao sat down and asked, "What do you think of the calamity race?" Fong Liang's expression did not change as he asked, "Why do you ask?" Emperor Shao said, "The calamity race offended us, and countless living beings of the Heavenly Dao died. Now that the battle has stopped, no matter how I look at it, it looks like the Heavenly Dao has compromised. I'm worried that the calamity race will cause trouble in the future." Fong Liang said, "But if we continue fighting, the Heavenly Dao will suffer even more losses. The calamity race is stronger than all the living beings in the Heavenly Dao. This is a fact. We have to admit it. We will treat it as a humiliation and encourage all the living beings in the Heavenly Dao to become stronger. Sigh. There are so many living beings in the Heavenly Dao, but they were actually defeated by a race. How laughable. Fellow Taoist Xiao, you don't have to blame yourself. After all, the Heavenly Dao has only been restarted for a little more than 10,000 years." Emperor Shao began to complain to Fong Liang, who kept comforting him. After an hour, Emperor Shao left. Fong Liang's expression turned cold. This fellow actually dares to mock my grandmaster. He's really tired of living. 1,000 years passed. Hanju's cultivation level increased again. It had been nearly 20,000 years since his last breakthrough. He was a little unhappy that he hadn't broken through after so long, and felt inexplicably terrified. Could he have become mediocre? Hanju shook his head. He couldn't think like that. He had to be confident. After all, Divine Lord Peacock was still waiting for him to subdue him outside the Heavenly Tao. He was about to check the emails when Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice floated over. Fellow Taoist Han, can you come to the Universal Hall? Hearing this, Hanju immediately moved forward. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du rarely looked for him. It was usually something big when he did. In the Universal Hall, Hanju arrived. There were only the two of them in the hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was the first to speak. It's not good. Hanju asked. What is it? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said in a low voice. The mighty figures of the deity realm of the ruins of End did not block the existence in the ancient desolate. Now that the array formation of the ancient desolate has been completely destroyed, countless evil demons have escaped. The great Tao sages have already evacuated the deity realm of the ruins of End. I'm worried that this matter will affect the heavenly Tao. Hanju was not surprised. When he read the emails, he often saw that the ancestor was severely injured. It was obvious that the existence in the ancient desolate was stronger. But then again, was the chaotic deity's power of order so strong? He could actually help the ancient desolate suppress so many existences stronger than him. In addition, do you remember Pan Xan? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked. We've met a few times. What happened to him? He obtained the inheritance of Panga's will, and his cultivation level rose steadily. It's said that he inherited the great Tao of strength, and is preparing to walk the path of the giant god Pangu. He wants to kill all the chaotic fiend celestials, and obtain the great Tao of chaos. Chapter 664 An Auspicious Divine Emperor. Chapter 664 An Auspicious Divine Emperor. Walking on Panga's path. Hanju raised his eyebrows and asked. He has the strength to do so. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du shook his head. My master said that he holds the heaven-opening axe, and has a 36th grade chaotic green lotus on his head. Be it attack or defense, even a great Tao sage will find it difficult to resist. So ridiculous? Hanju suddenly thought of the heaven-opening axe the system had given him. However, his heaven-opening axe was not that strong. He had tried it in the simulation trial. Although it was his strongest defensive Dharma treasure, it was completely useless against Ancestor Shitian. Moreover, why were there two heaven-opening axes? Hanju was puzzled. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, we have to hurry up and increase the providence of the heavenly Tao. Now that the heavenly race has moved to the netherworld, they are not suitable to be the heavenly Tao race anymore. Which race do you think is suitable? Hanju said, the human race. All right, I'll listen to fellow Taoist Han, and choose the human race as the new heavenly Tao race. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du replied with a serious expression. Hanju complained in his heart. What are you pretending for? Don't you also want the human race to become the heavenly Tao race? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was from the human race, and was the sect master of the human school. How could he not support the human race? Then, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du chatted about the reincarnation space. Just like before, he talked about the reincarnation space's development. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du planned to develop the reincarnation space into another little heavenly Tao, or even into a mortal world in the heavenly Tao. Hanju had no objections. Half of the reincarnation space belonged to him. Anyway, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du wanted to use this to fight for providence, but it couldn't affect Hanju. If the two of them really fell out one day, Hanju would let him know who the master of the heavenly Tao was. After chatting, Hanju returned to the 100-peak Immortal River. His gaze landed on Hanyu. This fellow had also participated in the Battle of the Netherworld, and his cultivation level had increased greatly. Now his status in the human race was only inferior to the human emperor. He even called the human emperor his brother. Once the humans returned as the heavenly Tao race, Hanyu would have made a comeback. Hanju looked at the netherworld again. Under the domineering orders of the heavenly calamity emperor, the calamity race didn't dare to deal with ghosts, gods, and immortals. Empress Hutu and Ji Xianxian naturally wouldn't take advantage of this. The netherworld returned to its former peace. Peace is still the best. Everyone cultivate in peace. Hanju thought silently. As long as he was given time, he would be more arrogant than anyone else when he was truly invincible. Dark Forbidden Zone. A huge bronze ship sailed. There was no living being on the huge ship, but the ship was clean. It did not look like it was uninhabited. In front of the bronze ship, Han Tua and Etion appeared. Etion frowned and asked, "That's it? Why is there nothing?" Han Tua said, "It's precisely because there's nothing that it's here. There are probably countless inauspicious evils on the ship who want to devour us." At the mention of the inauspicious evil, Etion couldn't help but shiver. Anyone would be afraid of such an invisible existence. Han Tua flew forward and cupped his hands. "I'm Divine General Han, under the evil Heavenly Emperor. I'm here to seek an audience with the inauspicious Divine Emperor." Etion bowed. The bronze ship suddenly stopped. The surrounding dark space fluctuated like water blown by the wind. A hoarse voice came from the bronze ship. "Where's your emperor?" Han Tua replied. "His Majesty is looking for the divine jade of the ruins of End for you." The inauspicious divine emperor did not reply. Han Tua braced himself and continued. "His Majesty asked us to invite you to capture Divine Lord Peacock. He said that as long as you can do it, he will think of a way to gather 3 pieces of divine jade of the ruins of End for you, and let your race control the deity realm of the ruins of End's sky." An extreme killing intent attacked. Han Tuo's face instantly turned pale. Behind him, Etion also took out his Dharma treasure and prepared to fight. Etion was extremely nervous. He didn't even know where the inauspicious Divine Emperor was. Lead the way." "Thank you, Senior." Han Tua heaved a sigh of relief, and immediately turned around to lead the way. Etion followed beside him, and asked with a voice transmission, "What is the divine jade of the ruins of End?" This old fellow is actually willing to agree. Don't talk nonsense. You have to be respectful to your senior. As for the divine jade of the ruins of End, His Majesty told me that if someone obtains it, they can obtain the providence of the deity realm of the ruins of End, and even control it. A long time ago, the deity realm of the ruins of End was actually a supreme treasure. What? Supreme treasure? There's such a huge supreme treasure? I heard that too. Ask His Majesty yourself when you return. Tsk tisk. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years passed. In the past 3,000 years, the immortal world had changed drastically. The thing most worth mentioning was the rise of the human race. The human school, the Chan school, the Jie school, the Buddhist sect, the Divine Palace, the Holy Mother sect, the Loose Heaven sect, and so on had all entered the human race and spread the Tao techniques to help them rise quickly. The reproduction ability of the human race was already powerful. Now that they had the support of the sage sects, they could be said to have soared into the sky. The numerous races of the immortal world were nervous. They were not stupid. They could tell that the sages wanted to support the humans again. However, in the past they often bullied them. They were worried that the humans would take revenge on them after they rose. The happiest was none other than the dragon race. Long Hao had face, and all the elders of the dragon race admired him. If not for Long Hao, the dragon race would also be one of the mortal enemies of the human race. Apart from that, there were dozens of mortal worlds between the netherworld and the immortal world. At the edge of the immortal world, the disciples of the various sects were still building various chaotic cities to help the providence of the heavenly Tao spread and condense into a land that bordered the immortal world. This process was very complicated and required a long time to accumulate. However, in the immortal world, there was no lack of time. The Calamity race did not stay. Under the arrangements of the Heavenly Calamity Emperor, more and more Calamity race living beings reincarnated and helped the Calamity race integrate into the Heavenly Tao. The reincarnated living beings of the Calamity race also headed to the edge of the immortal world, or the mortal world, to help the Heavenly Tao expand. The Calamity race's performance satisfied the sages. At least from the looks of it, the Calamity race really wanted to join the Heavenly Tao. In short, the entire immortal world was thriving. On this day, The strange deity suddenly found Hanju. It was very emotional. Through telepathy, Hanju knew that this fellow was very terrified, as if he had encountered his natural enemy. You're saying that an extremely powerful and auspicious deity is approaching the heavenly Tao. As Hanju became stronger, the strange deity that had long fused with him also became stronger. Although it was far inferior to him, in terms of strength, it was already equivalent to a sage. Its perception could naturally cover the heavenly Tao. The strange deity nodded, extremely nervous. Hanju looked up. It was silent outside the heavenly Tao. There was nothing unusual. However, it was very difficult to see the inauspicious evil. Hanju suddenly discovered that Divine Lord Peacock had disappeared. This fellow had always been in seclusion in the Calamity Race's city. Could it be that he broke his promise? No. Hanju immediately checked the emails. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by an inauspicious evil. X90293021. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure, and was severely injured. Gasp, had he attacked the inauspicious evil's base? Hanju showed a frown. To be able to severely injure Divine Lord Peacock, the other party, was at least in existence comparable to a great Tao sage. However, with so many inauspicious evils, they would definitely affect the heavenly Tao living beings at the edge of the heavenly Tao. Why was there no commotion? Could it be that the inauspicious evil was only targeting Divine Lord Peacock? Chapter 665 Terrifying Dark Forbidden Lord. Chapter 665 Terrifying Dark Forbidden. Lord Hanju hesitated for a moment, before giving up on using the derivation function. In any case, Divine Lord Peacock had yet to acknowledge him as his master. There was no need to waste his lifespan for him. The strange deity was still shaking like it had gone mad. Hanju glared and scolded it. Get lost and cultivate. The other party can't come in. What are you afraid of? So embarrassing. Feeling wronged, the strange deity could only shrink into a corner and curl up into a ball. Trembling in the past, the strange deity had always treated the inauspicious deity and the inauspicious evil as food. This was the first time it was so afraid. It seemed that this inauspicious deity was very strong. It was very likely one of the top existences among the inauspicious deities. Hanju decided to visit Divine Lord Peacock in his dreams. In any case, this fellow was severely injured, but he did not die. This meant that the inauspicious deity did not want to kill him. Divine Lord Peacock was probably imprisoned. In the dream, Divine Lord Peacock suddenly opened his eyes. Seeing that it was the Dark Forbidden Lord, he heaved a sigh of relief. Hanju smiled faintly. What? You can't do that? Divine Lord Peacock gritted his teeth and said, Your disciple is the inauspicious Divine Emperor? Very good. No wonder you're called the Dark Forbidden Lord. Even the strongest existence in the Dark Forbidden Zone is your disciple. Hanju was silent. What the hell? It turned out that the existence who attacked Divine Lord Peacock was called the inauspicious Divine Emperor. From this name, it was obvious that he was an ominous existence. What a chaotic era. Anything could give birth to a supreme expert. Seeing Hanju's silence, Divine Lord Peacock cursed. You don't follow the rules. What happened to fighting someone at the same realm? This fellow even brought helpers. Hanju thought of the number of times Divine Lord Peacock was attacked and couldn't help but mourn. This fellow was really miserable. Hanju asked, Do you know what realm the inauspicious Divine Emperor is at? Nonsense. I don't know, but can he still be at the same realm as me? Hee. What do you mean? Divine Lord Peacock had a look of disbelief. In his opinion, the inauspicious Divine Emperor was in existence like a great Tao sage, or even stronger. But on second thought, if he was really that strong, he wouldn't have fought with him for so long. Could it be? Divine Lord Peacock's heart skipped a beat, and his expression gradually darkened. Hanju asked, My disciple has a strange personality. How is he going to deal with you? Divine Lord Peacock gritted his teeth and cursed. How would I know? He sealed me on a bronze ship. I asked him why, but he ignored me. He's like a mute. However, there are still 2 people on the ship. They are the 2 young divine generals of the evil heavenly emperor. Damn it, Why aren't they also sealed? They are so weak and still dare to mock me. If not for me being sealed, I could have destroyed their bodies and souls with a breath. Evil Heavenly Emperor. Could it be that the evil Heavenly Emperor had asked the inauspicious Divine Emperor to capture Divine Lord Peacock? That should be the case. Otherwise, why would the evil Heavenly Emperor's subordinates be alive? Hanju said, "Don't worry. The evil Heavenly Emperor will treat you well." The evil Heavenly Emperor was not as strong as Divine Lord Peacock. If he really wanted to kill Divine Lord Peacock, he could just let the inauspicious Divine Emperor kill him. With Hanju's understanding of the evil Heavenly Emperor, this fellow probably wanted to subdue Divine Lord Peacock. The evil Heavenly Emperor loved to recruit prodigies. What do you mean? Could it be that the evil Heavenly Emperor is also your? Divine Lord Peacock widened his eyes in disbelief. Hanju was secretly pleased. Aren't you very confident? He was finally shocked. Seeing that Hanju didn't answer, Divine Lord Peacock's imagination ran wild. The Dark Forbidden Lord had cursed the chaotic deity and Kundi to death. Under him were the leaders of major factions like the inauspicious Divine Emperor and the evil Heavenly Emperor. Even the arrogant Divine Lord Peacock was shocked. The Dark Forbidden Lord was so strong and controlled such a powerful force, but he had been hiding behind the scenes. What did he want? Divine Lord Peacock suddenly looked up and asked, "Could you be the primordial fiend celestial that the Tao ancestor once mentioned?" Hanju said calmly, "Primordial fiend celestial? Who does he think he is?" Damn it! This fellow had really guessed correctly. Divine Lord Peacock said disdainfully, "You really know how to brag. Are you going to let me go or not? I'm convinced, okay? Tell the inauspicious Divine Emperor to let go of me. I'm going to kill those two divine generals." Hanju was worried that the two weak divine generals were Han Tua and Etian. These two were like a pair of pants, and had always been inseparable. "Don't hurt them. I'll let you go when it's time." "What do you mean? Not letting go? You still want the evil Heavenly Emperor to humiliate me?" Hanju remained silent. Divine Lord Peacock was furious. "Humph. You look down on me. I don't need your help to speak. I will definitely destroy the inauspicious Divine Emperor." Boom, the dream shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and shook his head with a smile. "Silly Peacock. If he was really my disciple, I'd definitely let you go. But he's not." Hanju looked outside the heavenly Tao again, and his gaze landed on the primordial origin coffin. TSK. Why didn't the inauspicious Divine Emperor find this fellow? It seemed that primordial origin was stronger than the inauspicious Divine Emperor, and he did not want to provoke him. On that day, Xing Hongxian suddenly came. Hanju had a headache, because this woman had finally reached the Zenith Heaven realm. Xing Hongxian was not immortal to begin with. After reincarnating and exchanging for a new bloodline, it was not unreasonable for her to become a Zenith Heaven cultivator. Hanju thought for a moment, and let her enter the Taoist temple. The strange deity was chased out. As soon as she entered, Xing Hongxian quickly walked up and started touching him. "It's been tens of thousands of years. I can't hold it in anymore." "What nonsense. Husband, why are you being so awkward? You're a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal after all. How can you be obsessed with mortal desires? Don't you want to?" "I mean, it's not that I don't want to." Several years later, Xing Hongxuan's expression was bitter. "Husband, are you going back on your word?" Hanju asked helplessly. "Must we have a child?" "Yes, just take it as my wish." "Do you want the child's potential to be poor or good?" "Of course it has to be good. It's definitely going to be the #1 talent in the world." "Not necessarily. You'll drag down my bloodline." Xing Hongxian was stunned. Her eyes immediately filled with tears as she bit her lips. She looked truly pitiful. Hanju had no choice but to listen to her. After a few more months, Xing Hongxian left. After so many attempts, she was finally pregnant. As for this child's potential, Hanju couldn't guarantee it. Ever since he helped Han Tua increase his potential, his control over his bloodline had become blurry. There was some force restraining the reproduction of powerful bloodlines. Then, Hanju began to cultivate in seclusion. 1,000 years passed in a flash. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at Xing Hongxian. He frowned. She hasn't given birth yet?" Under his gaze, Xing Hongxian was cultivating. Her abdomen was flat, and she did not look pregnant. However, Han Ju could sense that the child in her womb had vitality and was nurturing a new soul. Neza had been born after 3 years and was already a freak. Han Ju's son had stayed in the womb for 1,000 years and still didn't come out. What was this? Han Ju suddenly became interested in his new child. Could it be that he had won a prize? Did he really create an extraordinary genius? End of 5-chapter mass release. And it will go back to normal release schedule from tomorrow. Chapter 666 Han Tuo's Unease. Chapter 666 Han Tuo's Unease. Han Ju stared at Xing Hongshuan's womb. His youngest child was curled up like a porcelain doll. The vitality was very strong. This kid was actually absorbing Xing Hongshuan's dermic powers. Interesting. Han Ju was afraid that something would happen. So he sat down beside Xing Hongxian and used absolute purification on her. Xing Hongxian saw him and asked curiously, "What is it?" Han Ju rarely took the initiative to look for her. Could it be for his son? Xing Hongxian reached out to touch her abdomen with anticipation. At first she was also worried. After all, she had been pregnant for so long. However, as years passed, she could feel the child's vitality. She was now filled with anticipation. Such an extraordinary fetus must be extraordinary. Han Ju said, "If you encounter trouble, send me a voice transmission at any time. Don't be afraid of disturbing my cultivation." Xing Hongxian smiled. "It's fine. I'm a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, after all. How can it be difficult?" Han Ju chatted with her for a while, and left after the absolute purification ended. Han Ju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus, and started to check his emails. The protagonist of his emails became Pan Xian. This fellow had always been fighting, and had never been severely injured. He was extremely domineering. Han Ju also saw that Divine Lord Peacock was severely injured. How tragic. Han Tuo followed the evil Heavenly Emperor, and was beaten from time to time. After reading the emails, Han Ju looked at the immortal world. The addition of the Calamity race promoted the development of all living beings in the immortal world. The cultivation trend became stronger, which in turn strengthened the Heavenly Tao's providence. It was worth mentioning the humans. In just 1,000 years, the population of the human race had increased by dozens of times. This was all thanks to the influence of the sage sects, causing the other races to no longer dare to bully them. The human race's territory was also constantly expanding. It wasn't a rude and unreasonable expansion, but an integration with the other races. The humans were willing to coexist with other races. This was also something the sages were willing to see. Only by being united in the Heavenly Tao could they better face the crisis of the chaos. The reason why the Calamity race and the Flame race were so strong was that the race was unified, and there was less internal friction. Han Ju looked down at the crowd. There were fewer hardships in the world, but not completely. The anxiety of cultivation began to spread in the Heavenly Tao. Even if sages were preaching the Tao, their potential was innate, like a natural chasm suppressing all living beings. Han Ju saw Han Yu. As the human race became stronger, Han Yu obtained its providence, and his cultivation level increased by leaps and bounds. Han Ju looked at the netherworld next. Su Qi had been in seclusion recently, and Yang Tiandong was also living very peacefully. The heavenly race's leader, Ji Xianshan, seemed to have completely given up on his desire for power. He cultivated in seclusion all day long. The heavenly race's existence in the netherworld had become extremely low. Many immortals had even switched to the netherworld, or returned to the immortal world, to join the Heavenly Tao sect. On the other side, after the Earth immortal world fused with the providence of the Heavenly Tao, Han Ju could spy on the situation of the Earth immortal world in the main Tao field. Ren Gang and Yin Hongchen's cultivation levels had improved greatly, which satisfied him. Several hours later, Han Ju retracted his gaze and continued cultivating. 3,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The first thing Han Ju did when he opened his eyes was to look at Xing Hongxian. It was not born yet. Han Ju frowned. He spied on the fetus in Xing Hongshuan's womb. Its aura had already surpassed that of a mortal, Its soul had taken form, but it was in a sleeping state. This kid, was he going to hide in his mother's womb forever? The fetus only instinctively absorbed Xing Hongshuan's dermic powers. It did not have a cultivation technique, and did not have a realm for the time being. Xing Hongshuan's cultivation did not stop because of him. Her body was also in good condition. Her cultivation speed was even faster than before she got pregnant. After observing this, Hanju was relieved. He was afraid that the fetus would burden Xing Hongxian. Now it seemed that she was cultivating faster than before thanks to it. The news of Xing Hongshuan's pregnancy had already spread throughout the 100-peak Immortal River. The disciples were all looking forward to this young sect master. Only a few people knew that Han Tua was Hanju's son. Most disciples thought that he only had one son. It's said that the young master is still being nurtured. He must be impressive. That's right. The longer it incubates, the stronger the potential. It's said that the ancestral dragon was nurtured for 10 billion years. 10 billion years is too exaggerated. In any case, Sect Master's son is definitely a genius. Let's guess how long he will take to descend. It's probably still early. Hanju heard many disciples talking about this in the 100-peak Immortal River. Most of them were looking forward to it. If Hanju had children, the hidden sect could continue to be passed down generation after generation. As for personal disciples, they were not as powerful as the protectors who joined later. They were not enough to convince the masses. If his cultivation and experience were not enough to take over Hanju's position, he could only use his bloodline to convince the masses. Hanju looked forward to this child's performance after he was born. What should I name it? Hanju touched his chin and pondered. He hoped that this kid was not reckless and liked to cultivate diligently like him. Just call him Han Bulang? Han Kuxia. Han Go. This name was like cursing. He would think about it later. Hanju quickly closed his eyes. He was also agitated by his youngest son. He wanted to break through a minor realm before this child was born. Dark Forbidden Zone. In the darkness stood a huge stone door that sat above the sea of clouds. Two figures sat under the door. They were Han Tua and Etian. Han Tua suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. Etian asked, "What's wrong? Why are you feeling uneasy recently? Are you afraid of Divine Lord Peacock's revenge?" Han Tua shook his head. Of course not. Divine Lord Peacock has already been suppressed. Even if he escaped, revenge is still revenge on His Majesty. However, for some reason, I've been feeling inexplicably frustrated recently. Etian opened his eyes and asked, "Should we ask His Majesty?" Han Tua thought for a moment. This mentality indeed affected his cultivation. He immediately stood up. The stone door emitted a strong light. It was a teleportation formation that was 10,000 feet tall. Han Tua stepped into the strong light and arrived in a paradise. The blue sky was filled with white clouds. Immortal birds flew past in rows. There were palaces above every sea of clouds. From time to time, heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals would patrol. Han Tua quickly arrived at a majestic palace at the highest point. A plaque was hanging on the door. Numinous Palace. Han Tua had the Heavenly Emperor token and could directly enter the hall. The evil Heavenly Emperor was sitting on the Emperor's throne with 2 pieces of jade in his hand, frowning. "Your Majesty, I have something to ask you." Han Tua cupped his fists and bowed. The evil Heavenly Emperor looked up and smiled kindly. "What is it?" He was very satisfied with Han Tua. He felt that he had potential that was not inferior to Hanju, making up for the regret of not controlling Hanju back then. Han Tua voiced his concerns. The evil Heavenly Emperor frowned. Han Tua was also a mighty figure. His control over his body and soul had long reached the perfection realm. How could he be flustered for no reason? He pinched his fingers to deduce, but he could not deduce it. He had to take out a golden mirror. "Stand closer," the evil Heavenly Emperor said softly. Han Tua immediately took a step forward. The evil Heavenly Emperor held the golden mirror and looked at him. Golden light scattered out and landed on Han Tua. Crack! The mirror suddenly shattered, and a long crack appeared, splitting the mirror into 2. The evil Heavenly Emperor widened his eyes and exclaimed, "How is this possible?" Han Tuo's heart skipped a beat when he saw the mirror shatter. Crap! This was His Majesty's treasure. Chapter 667 On Par with Pangu. Chapter 667 On Par with Pangu. The evil heavenly emperor frowned and stared at the golden mirror in his hand. He looked at Han Tuo from time to time, his mind filled with confusion. This is a chaotic numinous treasure. It can even deduce chaotic fiend celestials. What karma caused this mirror to shatter? The evil heavenly emperor felt inexplicably uneasy. Could it be that a terrifying existence that surpassed chaotic fiend celestials had targeted Han Tuo? He treated Han Tuo as his grandson. How could he let anything happen to him? The evil heavenly emperor said, "Follow me to visit a senior." Han Tuo asked curiously, "Which senior?" "An ancient god who stands at the end of the river of destiny. He's a transcendent existence that has existed since the beginning of time. When we get there, without my instructions, you are not allowed to speak or look at him." Yes. The evil heavenly emperor waved his hand and left with Han Tuo. In the imperial city of the human race, Han Yu sat under a tree in his courtyard. There were dozens of cultivation formations set up in this courtyard, and the Khanate Qi was extremely abundant. He suddenly opened his eyes, his handsome face revealing worry. "What's happening?" Han Yu muttered to himself. In the past 1,000 years, he had been uneasy from time to time, as if a calamity was coming. This feeling was very uncomfortable. It was fine in the past, but now, it had already affected his cultivation. If this continued, Han Yu was worried that he would go berserk. He hesitated for a long time before leaving. Several days later, he arrived at the top of the Buzhou Divine Mountain. There was a simple Taoist temple here. It was Li Daokong's cultivation place in the past. He pushed open the door and bowed to the mat that Li Daokong had once sat on. "Master, I have something to ask you," Han Yu said softly and respectfully. After a while Li Daokong's voice sounded. "What is it?" Han Yu told him about his troubles. Li Daokong said, "Don't worry. Nothing will happen to you in the heavenly Tao." Han Yu hesitated before saying, "But this mentality has already affected my cultivation. Bear with it. It might be related to your ancestor. I can't figure out why. But there's one thing I can be sure of. Don't leave the heavenly Tao for the time being, understand?" "I understand." Han Yu immediately understood when he heard that it was related to his ancestor. Perhaps his ancestor had encountered trouble, and his bloodline had resonated, causing his Tao heart to become unstable. He had heard of such a thing before. As the saying went, if one lived, all would live. If one died, all would die. In a mysterious space, the personal disciples of the hidden sect gathered here. This was the myriad worlds projection created by Hanju's system. When cultivating, personal disciples always like to gather here. Through Zhou Fan, they could understand what was happening in the immortal world and the chaos. Li Daokong suddenly asked, "Is Sect Master not around recently?" Chu Shuren said, "Yes, why?" "Nothing. I just wanted to ask," Li Daokong replied, heaving a sigh of relief. As long as nothing happened to Hanju. Strangely, even after he became a sage, he couldn't spy on the 100-peak immortal river. He wondered if Hanju was still in the hidden sect. Sun Chang'an suddenly said, "There are too many. Master has a son who's still in the process of being nurtured. He's already been nurtured for 4,000 years. He probably has extraordinary potential." The other disciples sighed in anticipation. Li Daokong was stunned for a moment, before coming to a realization. "I see. Han Yu was indeed being affected by his bloodline." Li Daokong was not a gossipy person. He did not ask further. After understanding the reason, he was relieved and no longer worried about Han Yu. On the other side, Han Tuo followed the evil heavenly emperor into chaotic space. The fog was vast and colorful lights flashed from time to time. This was the first time Han Tuo had come to such a space. He couldn't feel any life force, but the surrounding pressure caused him to tense up. He didn't even dare to look around. He kept feeling that something was staring at him, making him feel uncomfortable. After traveling for an unknown period of time, the evil heavenly emperor suddenly stopped. Han Tuo subconsciously looked up and saw a pair of huge legs as tall as the Buzhou Divine Mountain sitting in front of him. Looking up, he could only see the other party's exposed belly button. Further up, it was covered by clouds. Just the lower half of his body was millions of feet tall. It was extremely huge, and had an extremely visual impact. There was actually a cold eye in that huge navel. Meeting its gaze, Han Tuo's soul almost exploded, scaring him so much that he hurriedly lowered his head. The evil heavenly emperor bowed and said, "Greetings, divine ancestor. Why are you here?" An ancient voice sounded. It spoke extremely slowly. Just these words made Han Tuo feel as if he had lived through the 4 seasons. This feeling was extremely strange. Han Tuo was shocked to discover that his dermic powers had increased greatly. His cultivation level increased. Just by listening to the other party, Han Tuo became even more nervous. The other party's existence exceeded his imagination, and understanding he suddenly forgot what the legs and belly button looked like. He did not dare to look up. "Divine ancestor, what caused the divine mirror you gave me to shatter?" The evil heavenly emperor asked respectfully. The ancient voice sounded. "This karma is too great. It's not something it can withstand. It's related to this child's bloodline. A supreme expert will appear in his bloodline karma and overturn the chaos." Shocked, the evil heavenly emperor asked cautiously, "Has it already appeared and is about to break through, or is it about to be born?" "It's still being nurtured." The words of the ancient voice made the evil heavenly emperor and Han Tuo think of many things. Han Tuo first thought of Han Yu. Could it be that Han Yu really would surpass him? Or could it be that Han Yu's descendant would become a genius that shocked the chaos? The evil heavenly emperor thought of Han Ju. Was this kid going to have another child? When he was the heavenly emperor in the past, the evil heavenly emperor had many children. Occasionally, children with extraordinary potential who shocked the 3 realms would appear, such as Long Hao. "Thank you for your guidance, ancestor." The evil heavenly emperor bowed. Since it was related to Han Ju, he couldn't be bothered. He turned around and prepared to leave with Han Tuo. At this moment, the ancient voice sounded again. "This child is far from simple. Since ancient times, only 2 can compare to him." The evil heavenly emperor was stunned. He turned around and asked, "Giant God Pengu and the Tao ancestor?" "Tao ancestor? He's just an opportunist." The evil heavenly emperor and Han Tuo were shocked. A terrifying expert comparable to the giant god Pengu and surpassing the Tao ancestor? The evil heavenly emperor's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly left with Han Tuo. "Don't look back." The evil heavenly emperor's voice entered Han Tuo's ears, scaring him so much that he followed closely behind and quickly flew away. Unknowingly, Han Tuo heard a strange song. It sometimes sounded like a resentful girl, and sometimes sounded like a heroic shout, causing his consciousness to blur. When he woke up, he was shocked to discover that he had already returned to the numinous palace. Han Tuo's consciousness quickly cleared. He looked at the evil heavenly emperor and asked, "Your Majesty, just now?" The evil heavenly emperor said expressionlessly, "What just now? 100 years have passed. You were almost mesmerized by that old man's Tao." Chapter 668 Expansion of the Hidden Sect, Primordial Fiend Celestial. Chapter 668 Expansion of the Hidden Sect, Primordial Fiend Celestial. So long? He wants to harm me? Han Tuo was shocked and had a lingering fear. The evil heavenly emperor shook his head. "That's not the case. It's just that his Tao is too strong. You shouldn't have looked at him. If your cultivation level was any lower, your body and soul would have been destroyed the moment you saw him." Even more afraid now, Han Tuo asked curiously, "Is he stronger than the Tao ancestor?" The evil heavenly emperor replied, "I'm not sure. That existence is not something I can assess. Don't think about it usually. Whatever you can think of, he can learn of it." Han Tuo nodded and became even more nervous. It could even spy on thoughts. It was too terrifying. "You can return to the immortal world to take a look when you're free. If I'm not wrong, you should have a younger brother or sister soon," the evil heavenly emperor said. Han Tuo nodded, feeling complicated. To be able to resonate with his bloodline, how strong was his potential? Han Ju didn't know that his youngest son had caused such a huge commotion. He was still focused on cultivating. Another 4,000 years passed. Han Ju was finally close to breaking through. He was in a good mood. After his seclusion, he preached the Tao to the hidden sect disciples for 100 years. Not long after the lecture ended, Li Xian'eo and Han Zuetian came to visit. As the first living being to transform in the 100-peak immortal river, Han Zuetian was already Li Xian'eo's right-hand man. They managed the affairs of the 100-peak immortal river together. Han Ju let them in, and the two of them knelt down. Han Zuetian began to report the situation in the sect. 10,000 nether race members were still stuck at the 6 mystic divine origin. Even so, it was still an extremely powerful force. Apart from that, the number of deity realm disciples had already exceeded 100,000. Not long ago, 2 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal disciples had been born. They were both geniuses, and had already become personal disciples. Among them, Chu Shuren had taken in the most disciples. He was the supreme Buddha in his previous life, and had his own understanding of taking in disciples. However, so far, other than Dao Sovereign, no new pseudo-sage had been born. The next pseudo-sage was most likely Zhao Xinyuan. After Han Zuetian finished speaking, Li Xian'eo said, "Sect Master, should the hidden sect expand? Now that the myriad worlds have welcomed a cultivation frenzy, the disciples of the various providence sects are increasing day by day. The number of mortal worlds they cover is also increasing. Only our hidden sect is still guarding the 100-peak immortal river. I remember that more than 100,000 years ago, the heavenly race divided the nearby 3 regions to our hidden sect. It's time to use them. Of course, the decision is still yours." The reason why Li Xian'eo dared to speak was that he could see the current situation of the heavenly Dao. Previously, when the Calamity race attacked, Han Ju had also sent Dao Sovereign out to fight, which meant that he still cared about the heavenly Dao. Since he cared about the heavenly Dao, it was necessary to take root and develop in it. Han Ju said, "All right, you can arrange it. When the time comes, I'll send you out together. Build a city around the 100-peak immortal river and expand it. In the future, the 100-peak immortal river will still be the center of the hidden sect." He paused and continued, "If anyone among the personal disciples wants to go out, you can bring them along." Dao Sovereign's experience meant that not everyone was suitable to cultivate diligently. Occasionally, they needed to go out to train. Now that Han Ju could already completely control the heavenly Dao, it was naturally fine to let them out. He did not let go in the past, because he was afraid of causing trouble. He wasn't afraid now. Even if the sky collapsed, he could withstand it. Of course, if the disciples caused trouble, Han Ju would also punish them severely. In any case, he had people in the netherworld. Those who had done evil should be severely punished. His principles and bottom line could not be broken. If they killed the innocent today, they might want to kill their master tomorrow. "All right, I'll arrange it now," Li Xian'eo said excitedly. Han Zuetian asked, "Grandmaster, is there a limit to the number of recruits?" Han Ju said, "It's up to you. But if I'm not satisfied, I'll find trouble with you." These words immediately brought great pressure to Li Xian'eo and Han Zuetian. After the two of them left, Han Ju's gaze landed on Xing Hongxian. The fetus was still being nurtured. It was the same size as before. At first glance, Xing Hongxian did not seem to be pregnant. However, Han Ju could feel that the fetus aura had become stronger again. Han Ju suddenly had a thought, and used the simulation trial to check his surroundings. Primordial Fiend Celestial, nurturing state, wow! It was really the Primordial Fiend Celestial. Han Tua only had the qualifications to become a Primordial Fiend Celestial. He had yet to completely evolve into a Primordial Fiend Celestial for the time being. But this fetus was already a Primordial Fiend Celestial, when it was still in its nurturing state. Han Ju found it strange. He had only given birth to 2 sons. Was his bloodline so well inherited? None of them were worthless. Han Ju had no choice but to use the derivation function. "I think I know why my youngest son can perfectly inherit my bloodline. If it was any other father, they would be overjoyed. But Han Ju was instinctively vigilant. What if it was a trap? For example, Zhou Fan was the Dharma idol of the 7 Dao sage. Feng Liang was chosen by the Dao ancestor. Those experts of the great Dao always had a way to scheme against others without anyone knowing. Han Ju didn't want his youngest son to become a sharp blade in the enemy's hands. It involves karma, that surpasses the current limits of the system. It cannot be deduced. Hanju's heart skipped a beat when he saw this line of words. The first thing he thought of was the Tao ancestor. The Tao ancestor had started plotting against him after he had interfered with his Tao integration plan? Hanju asked, "Is my youngest son being controlled by others? Or is he the reincarnation of another mighty figure? 100 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. As expected of my son. He's already worth 100 million before he's even born. This soul is a new existence. It only involves the transcendent rule, and is not being controlled by any living being." Seeing this line of words, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as he was not a spy. In that case, the reason why Hanju won consecutively was that he had touched a certain transcendent rule. What was it? Hanju was puzzled. Since he couldn't figure it out, forget it. Hanju started to check his emails. Your good friend Jiang Dugu has entered the dark forbidden zone. Your good friend Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your enemy, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by an inauspicious evil, X2093833297. Your son Han Tuo received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure in his dreams. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Heavenly Calamity Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock comprehended a mystical power in battle. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your son Han Tuo was attacked by a mysterious Tao Devil, X7113924. Ever since Divine Lord Peacock joined Hanju's circle of friends, he had been beaten up so many times that even Han Tuo couldn't compare. Hanju was surprised. After so long, Divine Lord Peacock still hadn't escaped from the inauspicious Divine Emperor? Could it be that he had guessed wrongly? It was not that the evil Heavenly Emperor wanted to recruit Divine Lord Peacock, but that the inauspicious Divine Emperor wanted to torture him? Hanju hesitated for a moment, and decided to visit Divine Lord Peacock in his dreams. The dream was still above the yellow spring. Seeing him, Divine Lord Peacock immediately revealed an arrogant expression and said, "How is it? The inauspicious Divine Emperor can't trap me at all. Do you have anyone else to send? Send them all. I'll kill as many as they come." Chapter 669 Shock. Chapter 669 Shock. This fellow defeated the inauspicious Divine Emperor? Hanju thought to himself. It seemed that the situation was different from what he had imagined. Divine Lord Peacock continued to shout. "What? Are you shocked? Are you exasperated and want to curse me?" He had the karma bead that specialized in isolating curses, so he was naturally not afraid of curses. Hanju shook his head. "If I wanted to kill you, I would have done so long ago. Besides, do you really think you escaped on your own?" Divine Lord Peacock frowned. Could it be? Divine Lord Peacock carefully recalled the previous battle. There was indeed something wrong with the inauspicious Divine Emperor. He seemed very weak. Could it be that he had deliberately let him go? Divine Lord Peacock's expression instantly turned ashen. Compared to being defeated, he hated being humiliated even more. Divine Lord Peacock glared at him. "What do you want?" Hanju said, "Come back. Find a place outside the Heavenly Tao to enter seclusion. Wait for me to arrange for the disciples in the Heavenly Tao to challenge you." Inside the Heavenly Tao, Divine Lord Peacock laughed angrily. He had some understanding of the Heavenly Tao. Even the strongest sage was not his match. How could he not understand what Hanju meant? He wanted to nurture that Heavenly Tao disciple again and challenge him later. If that was the case, didn't that mean that Hanju thought that the Heavenly Tao disciple's potential was stronger than his? All right, I'll rush to the Heavenly Tao now. I want to see what your Heavenly Tao disciple is capable of. Divine Lord Peacock waved his sleeve and the dream shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and looked helpless. Why was this fellow so angry? How did he cultivate to this day with this temper? Fortunately, he was not born in the same era as him. Otherwise, he would definitely be slapped to death. Hanju still wanted to ask if the inauspicious Divine Emperor had really been killed by Divine Lord Peacock. He did not believe it. No matter how he looked at it, the inauspicious divine emperor was a great Tao existence. How could he be killed by a freedom realm cultivator? If this peacock was really so capable, Hanju wouldn't subdue him. He had to think of a way to get rid of him. Hanju didn't allow another person with his potential to exist in the world, especially when they were enemies. Hanju teleported to the second Tao field. He gathered everyone in the second Tao field and began to preach. The chaotic fiend celestial's cultivation speed was extremely fast. They had all reached the late-stage zenith heaven golden immortal realm. The heavenly constellation fiend celestial had even reached the perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm. It seemed that the original chaotic fiend celestial cultivated the fastest. Yangdu was the weakest. He had no choice. He had yet to transform into a chaotic fiend celestial. In the Milky Way, Yangdu was extremely domineering. The name of the war god resounded throughout the galaxy, but here his attitude was humble. In front of the other chaotic fiend celestials, he did not seem to exist. It was not that the chaotic fiend celestials were bullying him, but the difference in cultivation level was too great. Just talking to them gave Yangdu a huge psychological pressure. At the same time, Yangdu looked forward to becoming a chaotic fiend celestial. As for the extreme pain Morong Qi and Great Loose Heaven mentioned, he did not care at all. Hanju left after 100 years of lecture. He continued cultivating after returning to the 100-peak Immortal River. When he broke through to the late stage of the Freedom Primordial Chaos realm, he would attack Divine Lord Peacock and let him understand that there was always someone better. 1,000 years later, Hanju opened his eyes. His cultivation level had increased again, and he was getting closer and closer to breaking through. He glanced over and discovered that Divine Lord Peacock had already returned to the Calamity Race's city outside the Heavenly Tao. Although this fellow was arrogant, he still kept his word. Hanju said, "Come in." In the Taoist temple, his new disciple Guan Bubi had been waiting for several days. Guan Bubi came to visit in 1,000 years. Unfortunately, he still waited for a few days. It was not good for him to turn around and leave, so he simply waited outside. Hearing Hanju's words, Guan Bubi immediately entered the temple. After bowing, Guan Bubi said confidently, "Master, I've already become a pseudo-sage." When he first became Hanju's disciple, he was only at the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Now he was already a pseudo-sage, as expected of the reincarnation of a freedom sage. Not bad. Hanju praised. Guan Bubi said, "Master, I've asked around. I heard that you're less than 200,000 years old?" When he asked this, Guan Bubi had an awkward expression. Master, please impart me a great opportunity." Guan Bubi suddenly knelt down and kowtowed. He believed that Hanju was the reincarnation of a mighty figure. But even if he was, how could he become a sage in 200,000 years? Although Feng Liang had attained the Tao, he had transmigrated to the primordial era many times. His physical body was already more than 200,000 years old, and he had relied on providence to attain the Tao. According to Guan Bubi's understanding, Hanju was not only a sage. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du had said that Hanju was already a freedom realm existence. Guan Bubi guessed that Hanju had a way of quickly becoming stronger, so he couldn't help but come to greet him. He was really anxious to cultivate like this. Hanju naturally guessed Guan Bubi's thoughts, but he didn't agree immediately. "What a joke. You're new here. What right do you have to receive better treatment than a personal disciple?" Guan Bubi's forehead pressed against the ground, waiting for Hanju to agree. Hanju suddenly said, "I indeed have a huge opportunity that can transform you. However, you haven't done anything for me yet. How can I believe you?" Guan Bubi looked up and asked, "What do you want me to do?" Hanju asked, "Why are you in a hurry to become stronger?" Guan Bubi gritted his teeth. "Revenge." Hanju was silent. In his previous life, Guan Bubi was attacked when he was trying to break through to the great Dao Dao fruit. Such hatred was irreconcilable. If it was Hanju, he wouldn't be able to tolerate it either. Guan Bubi's favorability was 5 stars. In the past, Hanju would have trusted him, but now he felt that as long as it wasn't maxed, it was unreliable. Hanju hesitated. After a long while, "Forget it, I'll send you to a place. Continue cultivating and wait," Hanju said, and brought Guanbubi to the second Dao field. Guanbubi was puzzled. "What place?" "Go out and listen to Morongqi. As for why I brought you here, you can ask him." Hanju left after saying this. He had once instructed Morongqi that anyone he sent here would be chaotic fiend celestial candidates, and he could explain everything to them. Guanbubi immediately walked out of the Taoist temple. Morongqi and the others immediately came over. There were few people in the second Dao field, but every newcomer was a future chaotic fiend celestial. They naturally had to get to know him and rope him in. In the future, they had to fight for Hanju together. Sensing the terrifying blood essence of Morongqi, the heavenly constellation fiend celestial, the crimson fox and great loose heaven, Guanbubi was secretly shocked. He began to ask where this was. Morongqi and the others did not hide anything. When Guanbubi learned that Hanju could make him a chaotic fiend celestial, he was stunned. In his previous life, he was the Khanate life form with the most outstanding potential. He had almost attained the great Tao, but he knew the difference between him and the chaotic fiend celestial. Hanju could actually turn him into a chaotic fiend celestial. Impossible. Guanbubi's first reaction was disbelief. After he entered the simulation trial with Great Loose Heaven and the heavenly constellation fiend celestial, he believed it and was shocked. A chaotic fiend celestial, at the zenith heaven golden immortal realm, was enough to sweep through him. On the other side, a line of words appeared in front of Hanju. "Guanbubi's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 6 stars. Chapter 670 Domineering Heaven Opening Acts. Chapter 670 Domineering Heaven Opening Acts. This kid is quite tactful. Hanju thought silently. Even if Guanbubi betrayed him later, he was not afraid. Before these chaotic fiend celestials appeared, he would definitely test their loyalty. Those below 6 stars would all be thrown into the primordial heavenly prison. Hanju didn't want to be stabbed in the back. Not long after, he threw himself into cultivation again. He wanted to break through as soon as possible. In a courtyard, Long Hao and Hanyu sat at the table and drank happily. Recently, Hanyu's uneasiness had disappeared, and he had returned to his normal state. This made him heave a sigh of relief. Although he was confident in his ancestor, if this state lasted for too long, it would also affect his cultivation and Tao heart. He might even suffer from qi deviation. How about it? If we obtain this opportunity, countless geniuses will appear in the human race. Your Han family can use this opportunity to soar and greatly increase your status in the human race. Long Hao swirled his wine cup and smiled. Hanyu curled his lips. If that's the case, why doesn't your dragon race want it? Long Hao chuckled. Of course we want it. I just want to help you on account of our relationship. The cultivation forces of the Earth immortal world are not very strong. Now only the hidden sect in the human school can enter. Hanyu frowned and asked, "Is this the intention of my ancestor?" He already knew that his ancestor had an extremely high status in the hidden sect. Your ancestor doesn't have the time to care about you. I just want to help you and fight for the right to enter the hidden sect as soon as possible, Long Hao said angrily. At first, he only befriended Hanyu because he looked like Hanju. After interacting with him for so long, the two of them were already very concerned. Recently, he had learned in the Myriad Worlds projection that Hanju was about to have a son. This child's potential was extremely heaven-defying. When this kid descended, Hanju would definitely forget Hanyu even more. In Long Hao's opinion, no matter how well Hanyu did, he was far inferior to Hanju. The greatest opportunity in the world was to win Hanju's favor. Hanyu hesitated for a moment and said, "All right, I'll bring my Han family disciples there first. If I succeed, I'll bring the humans in." Long Hao beamed. "Don't worry. There are no powerful cultivators in the Earth immortal world. We're going to carry out the duty of immortal gods and spread our faith to absorb providence." Hanyu nodded. Outside the heavenly Tao, in the city of the Calamity race, Divine Lord Peacock was meditating and cultivating. He suddenly opened his eyes, which emitted a terrifying cold light. He looked over. An extremely powerful aura was quickly attacking from the depths of the darkness. It was unstoppable. Soon he saw a mighty figure. It was unknown how tall it was, but it was even larger than the entire immortal world. This figure was bare-chested. His muscles were like huge mountains. He held a huge axe in his hand. The blade was surrounded by visible flames, like the chaotic chi when the world was created. It was vast and ancient. Divine Lord Peacock frowned. His gaze landed on the giant's face. This person's hair was disheveled and his white hair danced wildly. He looked like a demon. His face was wild, and the corners of his mouth revealed killing intent and cruelty. Freedom Realm Fellow, what are you doing here in my heavenly Tao? A cold voice entered Divine Lord Peacock's ears. Divine Lord Peacock immediately flashed into the darkness and turned to look at the giant. This giant was Hanju's good friend Pan-Xian. Pan-Xian was much younger than before. His body was completely different from before. He had the aura of the legendary giant god Pengu. Who are you? Divine Lord Peacock asked in a low voice. The first thing he thought of was that he was the Dark Forbidden Lord's disciple. This person revealed that he was a heavenly Tao living being, and was so powerful. He was very likely sent by the Dark Forbidden Lord. Pan-Xian said disdainfully, "Remember my name, I'm Pan-Xian." "No, you won't have the chance to remember it." With that, he suddenly raised the heaven-opening axe and slashed down angrily. His body was even larger than the immortal world. Just the terrifying wind stirred up by his raised arm was enough to tear everything apart. The chaotic chi in the dark forbidden zone surged violently. The heaven-opening axe slashed out with unstoppable force. Divine Lord Peacock raised his right hand. A five-colored divine light shot out from his back and collided with the heaven-opening axe. The five-colored divine light shattered. The terrifying wind landed on Divine Lord Peacock's body. In an instant, Divine Lord Peacock's body was destroyed. In the next second, Divine Lord Peacock appeared in another place with a terrified expression. How can this be? Divine Lord Peacock was shocked. His five-colored divine light was his intrinsic mystical power that had been upgraded to a great Tao mystical power. This was his strongest reliance. Even a great Tao sage would stagger when brushed by the five-colored divine light. His gaze was fixed on the heaven-opening axe in Pan-Xian's hand. What was that? Pan-Xian smiled disdainfully and swung his axe again. Divine Lord Peacock was completely furious. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? Divine Lord Peacock rushed towards Pan-Xian, and a huge battle immediately erupted. In the heavenly Tao, outside the 33rd heaven, the sages were alarmed by the terrifying battle aura. Hanju, who was cultivating, was the same. He opened his eyes and recognized that Divine Lord Peacock's opponent was Pan-Xian. Holding the heaven-opening axe, Pan-Xian was extremely ferocious. He was completely suppressing Divine Lord Peacock. Hanju was not surprised. After all, Pan-Xian had killed his way out of a group of great Tao sages. Why isn't my heaven-opening axe so powerful? Hanju was depressed. The heaven-opening axe he had obtained from the system had already been thrown into the system space. Seeing the heaven-opening axe in Pan-Xian's hand, his heart burned again. It had to be said that the heaven-opening axe was really cool. It swept through the world. Who could compete? At the same time, Hanju mourned for Divine Lord Peacock. He had just returned and was being beaten again. Hanju didn't want to interfere. He might not be Pan-Xian's match now. Staying away from trouble was the right choice. Will Pan-Xian harm the heavenly Tao? Hanju asked in his mind. The current Pan-Xian was indeed powerful. He had to be wary. 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. He has the providence of the heavenly Tao. With the death of the heavenly Tao, his strength will decrease greatly, and he will even lose control of the supreme treasure. Seeing this line of words, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, Pan-Xian was on the heavenly Tao's side. Hanju closed his eyes. The 1,000-year mark was not reached yet. He couldn't stop. As for Divine Lord Peacock, if he died in Pan-Xian's hands, it meant that he had no fate with the great Tao. However, Hanju still believed that he could escape. This fellow had such a bad temper. If he was going to die, he would have died long ago. In the blink of an eye, Hanju's 1,000-year seclusion ended. He opened his eyes in shock. Pan Xian and Divine Lord Peacock were still fighting. The two of them had fought for more than 600 years. They had already entered a deeper space. Only sages could sense it. It seemed that Pan Xian was still very worried about the heavenly Tao, afraid that the battle pressure would affect it. Divine Lord Peacock shone with the 5-colored divine light. His speed was extremely fast, turning into afterimages. Even sages were dazzled. Pan Xian couldn't keep up with his speed. Divine Lord Peacock's 5-colored divine light was like a blade, causing Pan Xian to be covered in injuries. However, this did not affect him at all. Pan Xian's aura was still domineering. Hanju's blood boiled. This was a true battle. However, I still pursue the path of insta-kill. Although such a battle is exciting, it's too dangerous. Hanju thought silently. Chapter 671 Infinite Reverence. Chapter 671 Infinite Reverence. Hanju watched the battle for a long time. He suddenly felt that the reason why Pan Xian could survive from a group of great Tao sages might be because he was durable. Divine Lord Peacock's aura began to weaken, and so did his speed. He was often struck by Pan Xian's heaven-opening axe, and his body was destroyed. On the other hand, Pan Xian seemed to be injured, but his condition was still high and did not show any signs of decline. At this rate, if Divine Lord Peacock did not escape, he would definitely die. Fellow Taoist Han, come to the Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice entered his ears. Hanju looked up. Sweeping his sage sense through the 33rd heaven, he discovered that all the sages had gone to the Universal Hall. He was relieved. He flashed into the Universal Hall, and all the sages gathered. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, Pan Xian has returned. He should be on the Heavenly Tao's side. Previously, he had been hunted down and suppressed by Jin Shen. If he's willing to protect the Heavenly Tao, this matter has to be resolved. Jin Shen was the ancient master of calamity. The sages discussed this matter. Hanju only listened and didn't say anything. He also learned about Pan Xian and Jin Shen's past. Jin Shen was one of the Tao ancestor's disciples. Back then, when the Tao ancestor first preached after attaining the Tao, Jin Shen had also participated. As the calamity increased, the Tao ancestor conferred Jin Shen as the master of calamity, meaning to maintain the order of the calamity. The calamity also had rules. For example, after the calamity began, living beings outside the heavenly Tao were not allowed to enter. Pan Xian was Panga's descendant. After he entered the calamity, he would not encounter heavenly punishment, so he always acted recklessly. Jin Shen had no choice but to take action. As time passed, the two of them formed a grudge that could not be resolved. Now that Pan Xian had risen, Jin Shen was only at the perfected pseudo-sage realm. How could he be his match? When Pan Xian entered the heavenly Tao, he would definitely threaten the sages to hand over Jin Shen. Hanju also learned that the reason why Jin Shen targeted Pan Xian was because of the other sages. Pan Xian used to be fearless and didn't even care about sages. He often said bad things about sages and offended them. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Qiu Shilai, and Emperor Shao had all schemed against him. After arguing for a long time, the sages finally decided to see Pan Xian's attitude. If he really wanted revenge, they could only hand over Jin Shen. Hanju had no objections to this. If he was Pan Xian, he would also think of a way to crush Jin Shen. Otherwise he would be unhappy. After the conversation ended, Hanju returned to the 100-peak Immortal River to continue cultivating. Subconsciously glancing at Xing Hongxian, he suddenly froze. Xing Hongxian was meditating and cultivating, but she did not notice the situation in her body. Hanju saw that the fetus was posing in the womb. Its movements slowly changed as if it was cultivating this posture. Hanju widened his eyes. Wasn't this the action of Pan Xian swinging his axe? Was this kid imitating Pan Xian? But how did he see it? Even the pseudo-sages in the heavenly Tao could not spy on the battle between Pan Xian and Divine Lord Peacock. Was this the primordial Fian Celestial's talent? Why don't I have it? Hanju hesitated. No matter what, it was a good thing that his son was talented. In any case, this kid was still being nurtured. It was unknown when he would be born. Hanju shook his head and continued cultivating. 2,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes. He was already close to breaking through. He could break through in at most 1,000 years. More than 30,000 years had passed since his last breakthrough. Time passed really quickly. Hanju looked over. Divine Lord Peacock had already escaped and Pan Xian was still recuperating in the dark forbidden zone. Hanju checked the emails and saw one. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your good friend Pan Xian and was severely injured. Hanju couldn't help but mourn for Divine Lord Peacock. Ever since he met Hanju, Divine Lord Peacock seemed to have been very unlucky. Could this fellow also treat Pan Xian as the Dark Forbidden Lord's disciple? Amused, Hanju immediately sent him a dream. In the dream, Divine Lord Peacock saw him and remained silent. Hanju didn't say anything. The atmosphere was awkward. After a long while, Divine Lord Peacock snorted. What supreme treasure is your disciple using? After being defeated by Pan Xian, he almost felt depressed, but he quickly blamed the defeat on the heaven-opening axe. Pan Xian was not his match, but the heaven-opening axe was too strong. Hanju said, Heaven-opening axe. Divine Lord Peacock's pupils suddenly dilated. The Khanate supreme treasure of giant god Pangu? I see. That makes sense. Then are you convinced? 1111 Divine Lord Peacock was silent. He was actually not convinced. He pinched his fingers and calculated Pan Xian. He couldn't figure it out. Now that Hanju admitted it, and even said the name of that Dharma treasure, it meant that Pan Xian was really his disciple. Damn it. Divine Lord Peacock was extremely aggrieved. He had always wanted to challenge the Dark Forbidden Lord, and even brought the karma bead, so that the other party couldn't curse him. In the end, before he could really see the Dark Forbidden Lord, he was defeated by his disciple. He had been invincible in his life, and was almost invincible in the same realm. In the end, the more Divine Lord Peacock thought about it, the angrier he became. He even felt that his persistence was meaningless. Hanju said, Find a place to cultivate well, and come to me in the future. Divine Lord Peacock replied gloomily. Hanju said, Don't be discouraged. Pan Xian himself is not that strong. In the future, as long as you are loyal, I can also make you stronger, even surpassing the Great Tao. Do you know what realm is above the Great Tao Sage realm? What realm? Above the Great Tao Sage realm is the Great Tao Supreme realm. Above that is the Tao Creator realm. Do you know how insignificant the Freedom realm is now? Divine Lord Peacock was silent as waves surged in his mind. He thought that a Great Tao Sage was the strongest existence. He didn't expect there to be 2 levels above. He had never heard of them. Hanju said meaningfully, My goal is not the heavenly Tao or the deity realm of the ruins of En, but a higher level. I can't tell you for the time being. The reason why I'm looking for you is not because of your strength, but because I like your future. One day, you will understand that all the disputes today are child's play. When the true Great Tao immeasurable calamity descends, the heavenly Tao and the deity realm of the ruins of End won't be able to take care of themselves. What Great Tao Sage? Just cannon fodder. The strongest can destroy 3,000 Great Tao with a flip of their hand. Those who aren't eternal can't escape the immeasurable karma. Those transcendent existences can turn your cognitive world into nothingness with a thought. Hanju's words were extremely domineering, as if he was a Tao creator. Divine Lord Peacock was shocked. He suddenly felt very small. Divine Lord Peacock's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars. With Divine Lord Peacock's cultivation, how could he trust others easily? However, he couldn't see through Hanju. He couldn't see through Pan Xian and the inauspicious Divine Emperor. When all the unknown gathered together, it would produce endless reverence. Although Divine Lord Peacock was arrogant, he knew that he was not invincible. There was always someone better. Divine Lord Peacock took a deep breath and said, From now on, I will acknowledge you as my master. I hope you can bring me to a higher level. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel, We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.